everybody. Fully here for a bit of a late one for the weekly news recap. 3rd to the 9th of June 2024, Summer Games Fest edition. That's mostly why we're getting started here quite late in the day. Anyway, I wanted to wait until the Xbox showcase was over, and that has just wrapped at time of broadcast. And also, it took me quite a while to go through all of these showcases because they are long. Very, very, very long. Anyway, let's get into it. So, starting with Summer Game Fest itself, which aired Friday evening. So starting off, we're not going to click into all of these, but we'll take a look at some of them. So Lego Horizon Adventures, it's a partnership between Sony and get who the actual developer is going to be of this. I think it's Guerilla, actually. Is this one? Sure, why not? So kind of coming out of, not really coming out of nowhere, there were some rumors that there was going to be a Horizon Lego thing for a couple of months now. Looks like it'll be out pretty soon. I don't think it's this year, but it's giving it the usual kind of slapstick, kind of overly stupid Lego comedy that they kind of go for, which is fine. I don't know, I'm not super attached to the Horizon IP, so I don't know how people feel about Aloy's character being a little silly and dumb. I was fine with Batman being kind of silly for the Lego films. I think it kind of plays fine. But anyway, the deal is it's, a pretty standard Lego game. It's not quite like the Traveler's Tales types. It looks like it's focusing a lot more on action. Aloy is a lot more responsive and so on. So it's not being made by Traveler's Tales. It's being made by Guerrilla. It is co-op if you want, although it looks like only one of you can play as Aloy. Again, you're not seeing tons of puzzles or anything like that. It does look like it is a brawler thing, just with Lego trappings. Seeing a ton of building either. Mind. It says there. I think it's more of a hub thing. And then cosmetics is a bit of a strange one for a character that would be, would be difficult to tell you're playing as Aloy if she's in a full bee costume. But whatever. Anyway, that is holiday 2024. So we're probably talking October, something like that. October, November. No More Room in Hell 3, 8-player co-op survival shootery type thing. This is from Torn Banner Studios, and they're kind of taking this mod that was a Half-Life mod years ago and turning it into its own kind of game. So it's a first-person survival zombie thing. Coming out around Halloween. Harry Potter Quidditch Champions is just a Quidditch game. It's almost EA Sports Quidditch at this point. 3rd of September. Cuff Bust is an interesting one. So this is from the same developer behind Choo Choo Charles. It's a solo dev. And Cuff Bust is a prison break thing where you're playing these weird kind of koala looking things. Not sure exactly what kind of creature they're meant to be, but I'm going to go with koala. And the deal is you and up to X number of your friends. I don't think it's been ironed out exactly how many, because this is still a while off, are trying to escape. Obviously, you're not seeing gameplay. You're seeing pseudo gameplay here. Again, the game is not ready. It won't be ready for quite some time. But yeah, Choo Choo Charles was fun and a very, ridiculous premise. This is similarly a very strange premise, and I think it'll work out well for them. And one of the real issues with Choo Choo Charles was that it was incredibly glitchy, and also once the gimmick kind of wore off, the game itself was a bit whatever. Hopefully they won't get the same issue here. Of course, your mileage may vary. I know there are some people who really, really like Choo Choo Charles. Anyway, we don't know release dates or anything about this. 2025, but the trailer is yeah, maybe. Probably not. Star Wars Outlaws, a little bit more info about that, but Ubisoft are going to have their own showcase tomorrow, Monday, 10th of June. I wasn't going to wait that long for the weekly news recap, so we'll probably talk about that next week instead. Neva, this is from Nomada Studio. Nomada Studio's previous game, Guerilla, is a very beautiful platformer type game, kind of like a Limbo type thing, only not as evil and cruel as Limbo. Has an amazing soundtrack and what have you. So I was quite looking forward to seeing more about Neva. Up until now, we'd only seen a tone setting, CG trailer-y type thing. That was very depressing. They actually killed the dog in the trailer, not this dog. This dog's mom. Um, Super depressing. I don't watch that trailer too much. Anyway, as you can see, they're still going with the colorful stuff. It still looks very nice. It is still your character goes right. They are going to be focusing a whole lot more on combat this time around. Gree has zero combat really. It's mostly about avoiding anything else. It's primarily you are platforming issues rather than combat problems. As you can see, the dog does grow over time. So they've hit like juvenile stage here, and they do eventually hit their adult stage where they have antlers. And I'm not entirely sure what's going on with the story, or how long it takes. Is it a kind of thing where they gain power throughout the game, and as they gain more power, they grow, or does the game actually take a number of years? We don't know. It is coming out later this year. We don't know when. Why did this? I don't know why Eurogamer's articles don't keep my highlights. Quite frustrating. Everywhere else does, and I don't know, Eurogamer has only stopped doing that recently. Anyway, Civ 7, it's been rumored for a while, and obviously they're going to just keep making Civs because they make money. But yeah, later, 2025, who knows when. Black Myth Wukong, this was almost entirely CG. Not going to click into the trailer, but it's out pretty soon. Middle of August, Black Myth Wukong is following Sun Wukong, Monkey King, from Chinese folklore, and it's a kind of Souls-like type thing. Asgard's Wrath 2 VR mostly was just to say, hey, I'm out, go play me. Only Human had a better showing in some other showcases, so we'll talk about that there instead. Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2, also letting you know that's out pretty soon, but there wasn't anything new in the trailer. It's just, yep, you're a Space Marine, you shoot bugs. It's the end of that. Metaphor Refantasio went into the kind of archetypes of the different people who will join your party. It was pretty heavy into mechanics and stuff like that, so we're not going to go too much into the trailer. It is out pretty soon, 11th of October. 11th of October this year. Batman Arkham Shadow is the next Batman Arkham thing, but it's not by the same developer, by the people who make Iron Man VR and Republic VR. And the VR bit there should probably clue you in that Batman Arkham Shadow is a VR game. It's exclusive to the MetaQuest 3. Again, we have still not seen gameplay. There was a previous trailer that was more of a teaser, and now there was this trailer that goes into the story a bit more, but there's still no gameplay. We don't know. It's obviously not Kevin Conroy, because RIP. I don't know if it is... what's his name? Robert Downs, I think, who played Batman for Arkham Origins, which is the one Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill didn't do together. I think it's Robin Downs who played him in Batman Arkham Origins, and Troy Baker played the Joker in Arkham Origins. Anyway, the Rat King is the main villain. He must be a new villain because I don't remember him being a Batman villain. What have you? Anyway, the release date for that? I don't think so. I think it's still a while out. Street Fighter 6 is getting some new characters. So returning is Elena and M. Bison, and then some crossover characters from King of Fighters, Terry Bogard and Mai Shirini. No Mai No Bai. Tears of Metal is Scottish Dynasty Warriors, effectively. So it's kind of a roguelite type thing. So unfortunately, I was really hoping it was going to be like Scottish attempted resisting their English invaders and what have you, but that's not what it's about. I think it might start that way, but it eventually becomes demons and that kind of thing, which is boo. Why didn't you go all in on it? We're gonna get a Braveheart, William Wallace type thing. But no, anyway, it is Dynasty Warriors. It's you versus hordes of enemies. There's a roguelike element to it, so if you die, you'll lose some resources along the way, but over time you'll get more powerful and be able to make further inroads on the demonic hordes or whatever they are, or the English. Let's just call it what it is. Release date? Oh, don't know. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, more Dragon Ball punching guys and yelling really loud. don't know when. Coming out on PC, PlayStation, whatever, but we don't know when. Delta Force Hawk Ops is a return to the Delta Force series, which was kind of predated the Modern Warfare thing. You know, where Call of Duty was up until a while ago. Was mostly focused on World War II, and then they pivoted to Modern Warfare, as Delta Force was always Modern Warfare. But it was also a very like strategic, tactical thing. You know, it was always like they went for kind of realism in that if you got hit, if you got shot, you're pretty much dead, kind of thing. You know, it wasn't a case of you just standing there and taking multiple bullets to the face and you'll be fine, or having armor plates that you can swap in and out, or whatever the hell's going on in Warfare. Who knows? Anyway, alpha test July this year, and then maybe the game will be out itself later on. Fatal Fury City of the Wolves is a new Fatal Fury fighting game. It's been rumored to be in development for quite a while now, and it's been kind of teased multiple times that it was going to be shown off, and then it wasn't, and it was delayed, so finally committing to it, 2025. Battle Crush, I don't remember. I think it's a PvP mech thing, but I don't quite remember. Mecha Break. Closed beta test August 2024. Again, that gets a better showing in a different showcase. We'll talk about that instead. Bloomhouse Games. So Bloomhouse Games is, again, Bloomhouse, the motion picture producer, what have you. Guy's name is, I forget. Jason? No, it says on that. Jason Bloom. It's horror films, that kind of thing. So they have a slate of horror films, horror games rather, that they are now helping to produce. I'm just going to skip ahead because there is. Let's do it here actually, and then they talk to them in the interview. So there's a good few games shown off here. Some of them more interesting than others. So we've got Chrysal Theater of the Souls, which looks like it's like a first-person kind of horror type thing, but I think it's a little bit more combat-oriented. Like you literally have a gun, so you're not really looking at runaway horror. It's more of fight the horror kind of stuff. This something Seasons, Grave Seasons, I think it's called. Grave Seasons. It's got a bit of the farming life sim thing during the day, and then at nights there's some horror shenanigans going on in the forest. Don't remember what this one's called. Sleep Awake. So you're not getting the audio, obviously, but this kind of thing is that she doesn't want to sleep because it's a Nightmare on Elm Street situation. This is Fear the Spotlight, and I think this is the one that's furthest along, so this will probably be out soon enough this year. It looks like a pretty standard survival horror game, but maybe it's throwing back to like PS1 era kind of things. This one, the simulation, looks like it's going for like Lawnmower Man. So the idea is the police have hired a video game designer for some reason, and they'll find eventually that people are being killed inside the game or something like that. And then the last one, there's no actual gameplay from it, but it's Sam Barlow and Cronenberg. Not that Cronenberg, different Cronenberg. Must be his son or something. They're working on a game together. Sam Barlow, the guy behind Immortality, most recent. It's like a found footage thing. I can't remember the name of the other two. Those other two games. There's one where you're like interviewing a woman for a police report thing, and then there's another where you're an FBI agent. So you're watching the footage of an FBI agent go undercover with like a Greenpeace thing. The name of them. Anyway, they're quite well done. Not everybody agrees, but I quite like them. Anyway. Project C, and there's a Project D as well, but I don't think they're involved with that. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Readers Rewind. This was an interesting one because it kind of just came out of nowhere, but it's a return to like the Power Rangers beat 'em ups of old that you may or may not have seen in arcades and what have you. And I'm gonna tell you now, when the theme music hit in this, it was like, yeah, yeah, I'm 12 again. I might have to play this. Let's see if I can get Melwin to jump in on it with me. I'm not sure if she grew up with Power Rangers or not. Anyway, Deer and Boy is a different game that has a person and an animal that gradually gets older over time. So Deer and Boy, I thought it was Guilt for a while. Just from this shot, I thought they were doing a Guild 2 or something. So Bambi's mom dies, and I think the kid, the boy in this situation, one of their siblings maybe has died, um, and the two of them are bonding through grief or what have you. But then there are some supernatural elements to it, so it's not all fun times. But like the giant or whatever. This could just be like a nightmare scenario where they were attacked by a boar or whatever, and now he's making it like a big thing. Anyway, the deer grows up, and now it is God. Or something. I don't know what's going on there. Release date for that one? No, quite a while off. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I think that is meant to be coming out later. Yes, later this year for PC, PS5, Xbox. Kingdom Come Deliverance was kind of like a more realistic approach to something like Skyrim, like medieval peasantry. Kind of work your way up into. I think you end up a knight by the end of the game. It has good and bad parts to it. Slitterhead. So this was leaked ahead of Summer Game Fest. So the last we saw of this had been mostly CG tone setting kind of things of people turning into monsters, really horrible looking things. And then there was like a studio interview visit where you could kind of see some things, but not really. They were very careful about what they actually showed off. Now they're happy enough to show off the rest of the game, and it's not really what I thought it was. I mean, I knew it was going to be like a third-person combat thing that had like horror trappings to it, but I wasn't expecting the body jumping mechanic to it. So it looks like you actually play a parasite rather than playing specific people, and you jump around into other people to go about dealing with these horrible monsters that show up. Now, it might be the case that there are distinct characters that you jump in and out of, and then every now and then you might have to jump into just the random populace. Because there are a few people who are shown off a couple of times in the trailer, so it's not clear if, again, they did, for the purposes of the trailer, they just kept some of these characters around, or if they're real people. Not real people, but like actual characters in the game, or if they're just random NPCs that are generated. I would say the police officer is probably a character. This guy shows up multiple times, so I have a feeling he's probably a recurring thing. It's probably a case that you start as one of them, and when you enter an area, and then you can jump around to other NPCs, and this guy just kind of follows you. There is, actually, you saw it there in that last section, so you can see the motorbike helmet guy and then the girl in the hoodie are here together. So it might be the case that if you are not actively controlling the person, they might just follow you instead. They're not really engaging in combat, as you can see. A few more. And that yellow symbol, I think, is just meant to say that whatever, press a button, you can jump into that person at any time. And back, whether that's a gameplay mechanic or if it's just part of an animation, we don't know. Anyway, Letterhead looks pretty interesting. It's from some former Silent Hill people, Forbidden Siren people, and that kind of thing. So we're hoping for some pretty good stuff. And it's actually out this year, which I was also not expecting. So 8th of November. Killer Bean. Killer Bean you may have seen doing the rounds on social media. I think a lot of it has to do with people just being really hyped for it because it's just hilarious, but also I think there's somewhat of a feeling that this is all bullshit and there's no way the game actually plays like this. Because there's a lot of stuff here that looks heavily scripted. Like this one in particular. If this is an actual animation the game has, I'm kind of thinking it doesn't, but still, it's kind of dumb. The idea is you're Killer Bean, you were wronged by some shady organization, and now you're taking it. Don't worry too much about the story, it's meant to be pretty dumb. But it just... If the game actually plays like this, it will be hilarious and very impressive. But kind of feeling like there's maybe a bit of bullshit going on here. I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see down the line. It's going to be hitting early access in the summer of this year. Cairn is effectively Jusant, the mountain climbing thing, but they're really dialing into the mountain climbing mechanics. They're trying to make that as kind of realistic and as satisfying as it is IRL. Whereas Jusant did have some pretty in-depth climbing mechanics, but they didn't really take, like incredible amounts of physics and balance, that kind of thing. Plus, Jusant did have some supernatural elements to it. Still a good game though. Wanderstop is the next game from the people behind, or one of the people behind, the Stanley Parable and the Beginner's Guide. So, if you've played either of those two games, you'll know that you probably shouldn't take what you're seeing here too seriously. There's almost certainly going to be some weird twist down the line. But the gist of it right now is you are playing a character formerly from like a gladiatorial combat or something, and you're taking a break from that. I've decided to do something else for a while, get your head back in the game, or set your head straight, or somebody told you to go relax, or something like that. So you're helping out at this local tea house instead, helping them brew their teas and take care of the guests and what have you. But it seems like not everything is all hunky dory. The character here has a bit of a crisis of purpose, existentialism, and it looks like her desire for combat and bloody rampages and what have you is coming out. Um, so yeah, I guess we'll see how the game itself handles it. It might be the case that you do like the tea party stuff, and then you go nuts at some point and then kill everybody, and then have to do the tea party stuff again and then kill everybody and something like that. Who knows? Later 2024. Unknown Nine Awakening has been shown off a couple of times. It's it's like an action adventure thing, but you can kind of jump into people's bodies and possess them, or pull their spirit out of their body and attack that way, or like teleport around the place. It's got some interesting concepts, but I've seen a lot of these concepts in like older PS2 games like Second Sight or Mind Jack or that kind of stuff. And it's kind of funny to see that this game is doing it and Slitterhead is doing it at the same time. There are other games that have, back in ye olde times, PS2 times, there were two games, Second Sight and something else that wasn't as good. But they both did the telekinesis, body possession kind of stuff. And it's just kind of funny that it's happened the exact same thing again. Whether they'll both be out at the same time, we don't know. I don't think this game is out soon. Autumn 2024. Okay, they might actually be competing with each other. Capcom just showed off a bunch of stuff and told you that a lot of their games are on sale. Inotria, the last song, is a Souls-like thing. This trailer was entirely CG, so we're not going to bother with it. But there is a demo out soon, and the game itself is out in September. The First Descendant is a third-person shooter thing. I think it's a live service, but I'm actually not sure. But anyway, it's arriving 2nd of July, so it's going pretty soon, so you'll be able to figure it out yourself. But it sure looked like Destiny. We'll see. Outer Sloth is an indie game fund that's set up by the Among Us people, Inner Sloth. Outer Sloth is their attempt to fund other indie projects. Some of them are already out. Mars First Logistics is already out. It's pretty interesting, pretty silly game. Battlesuit Aces is a card game that I think is still in development. Mossfield Archives feels like a walkie simulator thing. Looks very nice though. One Button Bosses is exactly what it sounds like. It's a boss rush, but you only have to press one button to beat. You just have to. The whole thing is context sensitive. The deal. Rogue Eclipse is probably the one that looked the most interesting. It's a space dog fighting game. It's quite fast paced, and I was quite impressed by it. And Project Doza, I don't remember. I don't quite remember Project Doza. I think the deal was that you're in a mech and you're cooking things, but I don't know. Not entirely sure what it was all about. Among Us, the animated series, isn't a game, so I'm going to skip past it. Sonic Cross Shadow Generations is a collection of Sonic and Shadow games. The deal of it is that I think it's I don't think it's necessarily a collection of previous games. I think the idea is that they're just harkening back to generations of Sonic and Shadow. And I think there is like a brand new thing for Shadow as well. I don't know. To be honest, I don't follow these very closely. 25th of October, though, later this year. Dune Awakenings, similarly, had no gameplay. It was all CG story stuff, and it was about the Dune story that I don't know, because I haven't seen the films or read the book. So I'm going to skip it. But anyway, it's there. Battle Aces is an RTS thing, so I'm skipping it. The finals, it's a new season of a live service thing that's already there. Alan Wake 2 Night Springs DLC. So at time of broadcast, this is already out. It came out on the 8th of June, yesterday. But the Night Springs DLC will have it's kind of like 3 one-shots, if you like. They're just going to follow 3 different characters in the Alan Wake universe, as opposed to Alan Wake himself. Having not played Alan Wake 2, I don't know what happens at the end of that game. For whatever reason, Alan's not around, or maybe they just wanted to do different people. But it's going to follow, I think it's the waitress from the first game, and then Sean Ashmore's character from Quantum Break, and then Jesse Faden from Control. So I need to play it now, because I quite like that character, and I want to know what else happens to her. But that's out now, so if you're interested, you can go get it. New World Aeternum is effectively the console port for New World, which is Amazon's open world RPG MMO thing. Honkai Star Rail got a new update, and I know none of you care. Oh, I do. Dark and Darker is free to play on PC right now. It's a PvPvE medieval dungeon crawling thing. So you go down there with a team of people to collect loot. Another team of people down there also trying to collect loot, and then there's monsters in the dungeon as well, and you can betray or not your own party members and, take the loot with you. Kunitsugami Path of the Goddess is the thing Capcom's been showing off for a good long while now. It's a kind of melee brawler / area defense kind of thing, or strategy type thing. So you can just, go in and wail on enemies, fairly standard brawler stuff. But the other option is that you can strategically place other characters, other townspeople, village people, who have their own abilities, like spear people, archers, that kind of thing, and you can dot them around the area and the arena instead. But you have to pause combat, I think, while you're doing that. So I don't think you can fight and do the strategy stuff at the same time, but the fight continues regardless. That's the deal. There is some kind of time element to the game as well, but it's out pretty soon. And it's also like a new IP from Capcom. They haven't had like brand new games for a good while, so see how that plays out. Hopefully it does well. Hyper Light Breaker, reminding people that it's coming to early access. It has been pushed back and delayed numerous times. Blame a lot of that on Take-Two and Gearbox and Private Division. As we've talked about previously, Private Division is probably on its way out, and Gearbox was sold off, and Take-Two financially aren't doing well, and so on. Anyway, we'll see how it works out for them. Party Animals, again, just reminding you it exists. Skate brought in the guy from I Think You Should Leave, I forget his name, to do a skit, but mostly that was because they had no gameplay to show. Palworld is getting a new arena, or not a new arena, a new area, pretty soon, 27th of June, end of this month. Valorant's coming to consoles as a limited beta, 14th of June, just next week. And then I think at some stage until July it'll be out for everybody. Monster Hunter Wilds had another trailer. I don't think it's showing anything that wasn't shown at the last trailer, the State of Play one. It wasn't exactly very long ago. Again, just showing that your character this time around is fully voiced. You do have a mount that can engage in combat as well. Don't just run away or throw you off their back and so on. A couple of new monsters were shown off. A couple of new monster behaviors were shown off. Monsters getting in on the action against each other. Up until now, it was usually restricted to just 2 big monsters would fight each other at a time. Looks like there'll be more of that. They're more likely for monsters to clash against each other, which is something they brought in Monster Hunter World, and then they added in Monster Hunter Rise, and I guess they're just continuing that aspect. The idea that they all exist in the same area. So it is entirely possible for them to bump into each other, and when they do, turf wars and what have you. Anyway, and if you have save data from either of the PlayStation and Xbox PC ones. Monster Hunter World or Iceborne, you'll get some stuff. Reminds me, that game is still technically in progress on the channel. Because I haven't said it's not in progress, so it's technically still in progress. I just need to get back to it. Phantom Blade Zero was shown off at the Game Awards last year, but it was a full CG trailer, so we didn't know a whole lot about how the game played, but there's speculation that it was probably a Souls thing. And yeah, that's probably what it's going to be. It's gameplay trailer that was shown off here looked like it was a just fast, even faster Sekiro, effectively. Seems to be the way they're going with it. Very fluid combat, very speedy, very reactive, which I don't know how I feel about it. There's a certain point the Souls games get too fast and they just become kind of annoying to play. Like, there are definitely some enemies in Sekiro and some enemies in Bloodborne that are just too fast. I cannot react to these attacks. I'm too old and slow. We'll see how it works out here. There's a lot of like heavy animations here as well. How many of these are canned animations? How many of them can be cancelled? Get annihilated by whatever's about to hit you and so on. We'll know more later on. There is a touring demo, which is not something we can play. Plebs. Only the press get their hands on that, but I'd say Phantom Blade Zero is still probably a while off. We're probably still talking 2025. Anyway, just finished is the Xbox Games Showcase, so my opinions on some of these games are still working their way through my brain. And it's also not clear how many of these are first party to Xbox, how many of them are exclusive to Xbox, and so on, how many of them will make their way to PlayStation, Switch, and what have you. Anyway, so first up, Age of Mythology Retold is effectively the original Age of Mythology 2002, but redone with like quality of life and modern game sensibility, stuff like that. And it'll be out September 2024 for PC and console. PC and console at launch, but not specifically Xbox. And they do specifically mention the Xbox in other games here, so possible this is going to be a multi-plat thing. Avowed, they showed off a little bit more of the story. It still very much looks like Skyrim, but we don't have the new Elder Scrolls ready for any time soon, so let's just make this instead, which is probably doing the game a disservice. It's by Obsidian, they make good stuff. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Avowed is coming out later in 2024. Don't know when or for what. Probably guess it's going to be a PC console thing. COD Blops, I mean, is anyone surprised? Of course that's coming out soon, October. Okay, rumored for a good while, Doom the Dark Ages, a medieval style Doom thing. It's going to be a prequel to Doom 2016. So if you remember or have not played Doom 2016, it starts with Doom Guy being woken up from like hundreds of years or thousands of years in slumber or whatever. He's like archaeologically excavated and they find his bed sarcophagus thing. So this game is basically going to tell the story of what happened to put him in that position. How did he get there? You know, what is all this crazy shit he had to do it? So it's pretty nuts. He has a shield. He just goes full Captain America, and then Rygar, the legendary hero that I don't think anybody remembers. Nobody even knows what I'm talking about, probably. Rygar was a game where the character used a shield, but the shield was kind of like a yo-yo, so you could like fling it out and spin it around. It was a bit God of War rip-off. I thought the weapon was at least interesting. Alright, some different weapons this time around. I think the big difference is obviously going to be this shield mechanic. You can Captain America the thing, throw it at enemies and what have you. You did see some of the wave beams there are differently colored, so it's possible the green one maybe can be reflected with the shield or something like that. They do show off parrying at some point in the trailer with the shield. This enemy comes down. Yeah, and he had green around his hand, so I think that's what that's going with. It's probably a case that if you use the shield here, something different will happen. But otherwise, it's Doom, and he goes Pacific Rim at some point. The Doom games, at least the remakes, the reboots, what have you, have at the very least been fun, even if they have been a little uneven. But they have been, for the most part, you know, a fun game to play. Anyway, coming 2025, you're going to see that a lot. You're going to see 2025 a lot in the Xbox Xbox showcase. Like, they did have a very strong showcase. Won't take that away from them. It was very, very strong. They showed off a lot of interesting games, a lot of fan favorite stuff, but a lot of it is either doesn't have a release date or is next year. Speaking of, Fable got another trailer that doesn't really show off much of the game. 2025, but again, that's been delayed multiple times. Who knows when that's happening? Gears of War E-Day is a prequel to the original Gears of War, so it's set 14 years before the first one. So this is when the aliens, whatever they're called, I haven't played the games, I don't know. But the deal is that this is when they show up for the first time. There is no date mentioned anywhere in the blurb for it, and I don't remember from the trailer if there was one or not. Indiana Jones: The Great Circle also got a new trailer, but it was for the most part cutscene heavy. It was a very, very small amount of gameplay at the end of the trailer, but not much. To be fair, the cutscenes they showed off did have a lot of the Indiana Jones kind of sensibility to it, the Steven Spielberg kind of action and comedy kind of mixed into the same scenes. It was quite fun. You could definitely see it appearing in an Indiana Jones film, but also there was no gameplay, so who knows. But it is out later this year, and they are, as you could see here, very much specifically saying Xbox, not just console. Anyway, Microsoft Flight Sim 2024. Everybody be shocked. November 19th. It came up again, and it said at the beginning of the trailer, it was like Asobo Studio, and it's like, oh, they're the Plague Tale people. I think they couldn't possibly be making another Plague Tale that quickly, and I was right, they weren't. Because I keep forgetting they work on Flight Sim. Alright, Perfect Dark. Again, this one has been in development hell for years, with the initiative working on it for a very long time after they came off the Covenant. And then it was given to Crystal Dynamics for a while, and then Crystal Dynamics and the initiative partnered up, and they kind of scrapped a lot of things. So yeah, we don't really know how far away this game is, how soon it will be actually playable or what have you. So this is a pseudo sequel slash kind of reboot, soft reboot of the series. Joanna Dark, it's a first person shooter thing, but it looks like it's going more for a Deus Ex element to it, or at least there are stealth mechanics, there are social stealth mechanics. Sorry, not social stealth mechanics. Social engineering mechanics, and then just straight up first person shooting type thing. At the beginning here, I was very much feeling like this is Deus Ex. I'm wondering if Crystal Dynamics are kind of repurposing some of their Deus Ex 3 things that they didn't get to make. The game was cancelled. So I'm wondering if they're repurposing some of that tech for Perfect Dark. Seemed like it. Having not played the original Perfect Dark, I don't know how much of these mechanics were used. I don't know how scripted these mechanics are. Is this a thing where, you know, there are multiple ways to get through this section? Or is this just the game tells you to copy this person's voice and get through that way? Don't know. The gist of this particular gameplay segment is Joanna is making her way into Carrington's, as you can see in the top left corner. His office, he has some kind of radioactive device, or bomb maybe, in his possession, but if you've played the original game, you'll know that this game does veer into like aliens and conspiracy theories and that kind of thing, so no, it doesn't stay kind of basic like that. Anyway, things go to shit eventually, and it does turn into a firefight. Again, this looks quite scripted. At what point are you actually playing as? You're probably playing as her here, but again, this game has been stalled and restarted and scrapped and restarted so many times. How far along it actually is. Like, this could just be a nice, what do they call it? Playable slice, or whatever they call it, a vertical slice of the game. Yeah. Who knows how much the game is actually ready. But yeah, they're going into it here that there's maybe some timey-wimey universe stuff going on there as well. We don't have a release date. It's not mentioned anywhere. So probably end of 2025 at best. South of Midnight is also a 2025 game. This was shown off, I think, last year's Xbox thing. It could well have been the year before that. I think it's been a while. So South of Midnight is from the We Happy Few people. This cutscene, it looks like it's going for like a stop motion thing, which is always a choice to make in video games because stop motion can very easily be confused for poor frame rate. There's a fine line between stop motion and poor frame rate for video games. Anyway, the gist of this little video game segment is that island that they're looking up at is actually a big crocodile, and this fish doesn't want to go anywhere near it, so they're going to ask this character to distract the crocodile in some way, and there's a bit of platforming and stuff. So kind of interestingly, as you can see in the cutscene, it was quite very obviously they were going for a stop motion thing, but it's not as obvious here in the actual gameplay. Mostly because if the camera, as you were rotating it or moving it, and that was also had a stop motion animation to it, people would be like, what the fuck is this? This just looks like it's not running well instead. But it's always a weird choice to do. I think stop motion only really works for fixed camera angle type games. But we'll see. I mean, see how it works out. I'm sure it'll be fine. I do get a lot of... I've only just kind of finished playing Banishers, so I am getting a lot of Banishers from it. See how much that plays out. Interesting combat mechanics. You can see in the top left corner, you've got abilities on cooldown that are tied to your shoulder buttons. Pretty standard, to be honest, even if it does look nice. And the setting is not one you see very often, swamps, Nolans, that kind of thing. You don't see it too much. Anyway, skipping ahead, there's a few more platforming segments. You've got this glider, flying in the wind currents and that kind of thing. You make your way up there and yeah, you ring the bell, but instead of it getting the crocodile to run away. Anyway. No specific date for this. It's 2025. But not early 2025, late 2025, who knows. State of Decay 3 was a fully CG trailer. So who knows when that's actually coming out. No date given here anywhere. World premieres from new games from our partners. So these are definitely coming to things other than Xbox. Everything above that, debatable. It may or may not make its way out of Xbox. These ones will. So Assassin's Creed Shadows showed off a little bit more gameplay, but we'll probably see a lot more of that at tomorrow's Ubisoft things. Tune in for that. Atomfall looked a lot like Fallout England. That was the vibe I got from it. 2025 for that one. I don't know too much more about it. And also Fallout London is coming pretty soon, so let's see which one of them actually comes out first. It is by the Rebellion people, and I forget what else Rebellion has made. I do think they make first-person shooters, though. Be okay for them. Claire Obscure Expedition 33 was probably the game I was most impressed by in Xbox's showcase. So this is from former Ubisoft developers. I forget the name of their new studio. Something very uninspired, but the game looks really interesting. So the gist and the thing that was impressed me the most was its story concept is really interesting, and it's dumb, but it's also interesting. So the number you can see at the back there, every year it ticks down, and every person of that age dies immediately when they write the new number, or not quite immediately, but they get like Thanos snapped pretty much. What's not clear is it everybody that age and up dies, or is there some like window where if you're born at a particular time of year you never get snapped? I don't know. Anyway, I am assuming it's everybody that age and up. The idea with the game then is you're going on an expedition 33, to stop that happening again, for there to not be a 32. So it is action adventure melee combat situation, but everyone is young. Everyone's younger than me and gonna be in this. Fuck. Anyway, it's a kind of turn-based, kind of real-time reactionary kind of thing. So enemies will attack you, and you can counter them if you like button press at the right time, stuff like that. But otherwise, it is a turn-based combat situation, which I'm fine with because it looks really nice. And it does look like they're leaning in a kind of painting motif, because you can see paintbrush like swirls, and a lot of the moves have kind of painting nomenclature to them. Looks like that's what they're going for. But yeah, I thought the story premise was interesting and kind of silly. Also, I'm kind of here for it as well. Anyway, that was the last of the trailers that I was actually interested in. And you would have thought I would have been interested in Dragon Age: The Veilguard, but that trailer was very, very disappointing. Not liking the way Veilguard is going. It looked like Fortnite. So I'm going to say less about that. Otherwise, I'll get mad. All right, Souls Life Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn is out really soon, July 18th. So this is it. Look, the first time this game was shown off, it looked like it was a Souls-like kind of thing, but I think it has been redone. In the meantime, this is like years ago now. It's been redone in the meantime to be a little more fluid and a little less kind of punishing. Um, it does kind of have a God of War vibe to it because you have this little character that's with you, Carbuncle, I think it's called. Um, no, that's Final Fantasy. I don't actually know what this character's called. But they are with you and they help in combat, and I think they play a little bit like Atreus from the newer God of War games, in that they're, for the most part, will do their own thing, but you can like specifically have them call out and do stuff. I think is the gist with it. Anyway, that's out a lot sooner than I thought. I thought it would be later in the year. Frag Punk is a 5v5 hero shooter thing because, of course, we need more of those. Life is Strange Double Exposure is a new Life is Strange game, and it's having the original Max Caulfield from the original games coming back. They'll be the main protagonist this time around, so there's time shit powers going on. October 29th, the game will be out, available for everybody. As I said, Mecha Break got a better showing in the Xbox showcase, so if you want to check that out yourselves, do that. It looked like pretty cool, like fast-paced mech combat. I'm kind of, really looking for right now. Daemon X Machina that I played on the Switch just didn't do it for me. I'm looking more for like Zone of the Enders, like fast combat that I just wasn't getting from that. And I haven't played Fires of the Rubicon, mostly because it's still too expensive. It's still like $70. It's like, that needs to come down a little bit. Anyway, closed beta for that coming in August, and then the game itself will be out next year at some point. That does make me worry that it's a multiplayer. And I just read it there. It's a multiplayer mech-based shooter. Why? Why? Just give me fucking Zone of the Enders 3 already. Right, Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater showed off again. No date, so we still don't really know when that's coming out. But it looks like it's pretty far along. Would have expected to be out pretty soon. Might see more at Gamescom in August, possibly. Tokyo Game Show in September, maybe. It is Konami. They might be more comfortable showing it off there instead. Anyway, it is practically one-to-one remake of Snake Eater. And it's certainly looking good. So as long as they don't fuck up the game direction, which if they're doing a one-to-one thing, they won't. Who knows? Konami is Konami after all. Mixtape is the next game from the people behind The Artful Escape. And they're continuing with their music-based kind of stuff. So Mixtape is basically, hey, did you always want to be a teen in the 90s? No, I was a teen in the 90s. I absolutely don't want to go back to that time. Anyway, did you say yes? I sure didn't. Anyway, that's what Mixtape is. You're a teen in the 90s. You're about to, finish school and maybe go off to college or maybe do something else. And is heavily music inspired. There's a lot of licensed music in it, so that's probably one you're not going to see streamed too much. It feels like their budget was spent mostly on getting that music. And then randomly out of nowhere, Stalker 2: Heart of Chernobyl got a trailer. That was pretty surprising because they have been MIA and no new info from Stalker 2 for a long time. Anyway, Stalker 2: Heart of Chernobyl showed up. That's Stalker, all right. Looked quite nice, but it's definitely Stalker. First person, shooter in a horrible wasteland, but way more devastating than Fallout. Take one wrong step somewhere, you're just instantly. Hopefully it's not as punishing as the original Stalker. Winter Burrow is a cozy survival thing. This looked kind of fun and kind of cute. The idea is you're a mouse, used to be city mouse. You've come back to the forest and found that your childhood home is abandoned and in ruins, so the game is making it nice and cozy again. Wuchang Fallen Feathers is another Wire Fu, Wuxia, Souls-like kind of thing. There are too many now. Phantom Blade Zero, Wushang Fallen Feathers, Wulong, not Wulong, Wukong? Black Myth Wukong, that's the one. There's another one, Where Winds Meet, that's another one. There was another one shown off at State of Play that I don't remember what, but they all look the fucking same. That's the problem, and I don't think I could tell them apart if I saw them side by side. But again, no release date for that, no release date for this, no release date for Stalker, etc., etc. Who knows? There's a lot of, so as I said, there's a lot of things in the Xbox presentation that looked really good, really impressive. They're a while off. You know, they are next year at best. Not a whole lot shown off for this year other than Indiana Jones. So they're kind of in the same boat as Sony, that they don't really have anything ready for this year. A lot of it has been pushed to next year or further out. And then a couple of other live service games are getting updates. So Diablo's getting a new expansion. That the trailer was really mean. It was really good, but good God, that was a very cruel trailer. Elder Scrolls has a new thing coming. Fallout 76 has a new thing coming. Sea of Thieves has a new thing coming. Starfield finally is getting some actual content. It only took them like 9 fucking months or something. It actually looks pretty good. This has got a bit of a horror vibe to it. That's interesting. And World of Warcraft is also getting there's a new Xbox that will be all digital instead. Anyway, we're gonna have to move on because it's like an hour into this stream, and as you can see, we have not made a lot of progress in the tabs. So we're gonna rapid fire, I think, a few of these. Little to the Left is getting new DLC. After Love EP, it's like a music-based slice of life thing. Arranger is a pretty interesting puzzle game where everything is kind of on a conveyor belt, or when you move, everything moves with you. You can see. So if you move along a row, the whole row will move with you. If you move a column, the whole column will move with you. And the idea is that you need to get things into very specific arrangement. The game's called Arranger. Makes sense. Battle Vision Network PvP follow-up to Grindstone. This I thought looked really good until I heard it was PvP. So it's a kind of match 3 game. Like PvP match 3 type thing. And the idea is, again, if you match rows, you make offensive abilities. If you match columns, you make defensive ability. The idea is to put your opponent out in that way. And the characters all have like big personalities, and it's presented as like a game show kind of thing. And yeah, thought it looked really good until they said it was PvP. I was like, well, that's the end of that. Building relationships, it feels like a joke game. It feels like somebody dared somebody to make a stupid game about it. And they took the concept of building relationships and took it very literally. This is relationships between buildings. It's a dating sim, but you're a house, and you're dating like lighthouses and shacks and tents and apartment blocks and stupid shit like that. So clearly somebody lost the bet, but it does look dumb. Cairn, as I said, it got a better showing in this showcase. So if you're more interested, I would suggest checking out that trailer instead. The idea is the Game Baker people, so their other games, Fury and Haven, all had this kind of general motif of freedom to them. So Fury was a little bit more literal in that you were a prisoner and you were fighting to escape. Haven was a thing where these two were a lover couple were trying to escape their arranged marriage and life where he was going to be a servant or something like that for the rest of his life or something like that. And they were trying to escape that and live on their own kind of thing. And then Cairn is freedom from like grief or something. So you're trying to climb the mountain because it's been something that's been weighing heavily on you or something like that. I don't know. It looked interesting either way. Cozy Grove, for whatever reason, the trailer didn't load in here, but Cozy Grove Camp Spirit is effectively a mobile port of Cozy Grove. Fear the Spotlight is the thing that came out of Bloomhouse. Again, there's a much bigger trailer there for it. It does look interesting. It does feel like it's something that will end up on the channel at some point. Hello Again is Groundhog Day. It's like a kind of cozy Groundhog Day, effectively. Karma, The Dark World is a very tropey dystopian horror type thing, like a cyber body horror kind of thing. So if you've played, what's it called? Rutger Hauer in it from Bloober Team. system something. Forget now. But it did look a lot like that. But yeah, we'll probably play it though. That's the kind of shit I play. Korra is about protecting a puppy. Here's yet another game where you're a guy with a dog, girl with a dog, or a guy with a deer or something. But it's a pet and they get older as time goes on. I feel like a lot of developers lost pets recently or something. Pedal Runner is about ferrying Tamagotchi about the place, but it's presented as like an old Game Boy Advance kind of game, which I thought was pretty cool. So there's this kind of fairly lengthy anime intro, but this is kind of like you're a courier driving Tamagotchis to them, or helping fix them, or doing mechanical work for them, or something like that. And you have your own Tamagotchi pet that follows you around. I say Tamagotchi, they're like holographic pets or something like that. Like you have like a device that can put them out into. It's a bit more like Pokemon that way. No, it looks interesting. Sure, give it a shot. Phoenix Springs is a detective point and click kind of thing. It does have a kind of noir vibe to it. Quite cool. Psychroma is not entirely sure what it's about, but it does look like it is some kind of horror title set in a kind of cyberpunk era where people are having their Alzheimer's or amnesia or something because of their implants, something like that. And it's kind of taking this idea of people relying on technology, but the technology will also kill you eventually, kind of thing. Screenbound. You've probably seen this make the rounds on social media every now and then, but the deal with Screenbound basically is that it's both first person and third person at the same time, or it's both 3D and 2D at the same time. So you play the game world, if you like, in 3D. You can kind of walk around it as you will, but the game is also running on this kind of Game Boy thing that you see in front of you at the same time. So you have to be careful about how you. So the 2D part of the game doesn't have any depth to it, but the 3D part does have depth. So like you can jump to there's a block to his left there. You could jump to it, and it mightn't do anything in the 2D game, or it might make you hit a wall in the 2D game and fall. So you need to be careful about where you decide to jump, how you decide to jump, and so on. Also, I think enemies don't exist in 3D world, but they do exist in the 2D world. And there's something about when the enemies are beaten or when the enemies are defeated, they seem to power up the Game Boy device in some way. Not clear. That's probably like a story thing. Not clear if that has an actual gameplay thing to it, what have you. And then a lot of this is a dev diary, so they are talking about the development of the game. This is their game editor, how they made it, and then just putting the game out, making it in 2D. Just have a translator that turns it into a 3D environment. So they don't actually make the 3D environment, they just make the 2D environment. Now, obviously, they had to make the assets for the 3D environment, but my point is they didn't actually place any of them. It's just they have a translation tool that does it for them, which is pretty cool. Anyway, Greenbound doesn't have a release date or anything like that. Simpler Times is a walking sim. It's a person who I think is packing up their bedroom, and you go through their memories. Tides of Tomorrow is a kind of interesting thing. It's like a first-person action-adventure type thing, but the gimmick is that your story can be influenced by people on your friends list who are also playing the game. So decisions they make will appear as an alternate timeline beside you, and you can choose to engage with it or not. And then similarly, decisions you make appear as alternate timelines in theirs, and they can work with it or not. The thing they showed off in the game was somebody in their friend group had stashed a weapon somewhere, and then when gameplay came back to the person playing, they were able to find that weapon. That's how well that will play out. Tom the Post Girl is effectively Peeping Tom the Post Girl. It's a game about being a post girl, delivering packages and what have you to around the people, but you can also snoop on them, and maybe that's a good thing, and maybe that's a bad thing. It's a horror game. Anyway, UFO 50 was a really interesting concept. So basically, they're taking the idea that there was a video game device called the UFO or something like that, And they're taking this idea of like, what would that look like? What would the games look like if it had, it's kind of restricted hardware? It can only do so many things at once. It can only have so much in memory at once, and what have you. And like, here's 50 mini games from it. And I think there is like an overarching story to it. But you can play the games in any order you want. They're all quite different. Some of them are sequels to the the games as well. So you can find some games like were very popular, so they got sequels, and maybe some games weren't so popular and didn't get sequels, and so on, and so forth. It's an interesting concept. I don't know how well it'll work commercially, but we'll see. While Waiting is a very, very dumb game. It is very much in the same vein as something like Untitled Goose Game or Little Kitty Big City or whatever, what have you. So the idea with While Waiting is you are stuck in this situation. You are waiting for an elevator. But there are a bunch of little stupid challenges you can do while you're waiting. One of those was take the wrong elevator, what have you. So there's all a bunch of stupid things that that you're waiting to do. You're waiting for your breakfast to be done. You're waiting in line at the amusement park. You're waiting to pick up your luggage at the airport, or you're waiting for the bus, or whatever. And you can engage in all sorts of shenanigans while you're at it. It's obviously a very dumb thing. It's something I want to check out. Zoocosis was probably the standout for Day of the Dev. So Zoocosis, the gist of Zoocosis is you are playing... Hey, why spiders? Why? Why have you done this to me? Alright. Yeah, that's a problem. Anyway, so... getting into it. The idea with Zoocosis is you are playing a zoo handler who's just been hired. A bit like Five Nights at Freddy's kind of thing. And there's a mysterious illness going around the animals at the zoo, and it's doing some weird things to it, like turning giraffes into spiders, and so on and so forth. So it does have that element to it, and that you are trying to survive all these horrible creatures. Mystery meat. I assume that's what's being fed to them, and that's why they're turning into shit. That seems to be what's happening. So some of it is, kind of nice and cozy, and you're helping the animals out and what have you. But eventually things go badly. That'll be a weird one to play. Right, moving on. We had the Guerilla Collective. This was a showcase that was, I think, earlier in the week. So this was before Summer Game Fest. So the Guerilla Collective kind of focused mostly on PC stuff. The whole point of the Guerilla Collective things is that it's promotion and PR for games that wouldn't typically, see the bigger showcases. These are kind of, vast majority of these will be independent things. So Yuka Replayly, great name, is, as it might sound, it's a remaster remake of Yooka-Laylee, which itself was a spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie. So it's a kind of mascot platformer thing, but focusing mostly on collectibles rather than Mario thing of having challenging platforming stuff. Most of Yooka-Laylee is here's a collectible in a weird position, figure out how to collect it. It's like if, the Riddler stuff from Batman Arkham, but too many. even more than there was in the Arkham. But yeah, if you play the original, you're probably seeing it there, that it's got a bit of a glow up. I think it's out soon. Sure. Patient might be needed on that. Anyway, Deathbound. So I've kind of highlighted ones that I wanted to Deathbound is a somewhat party-based Souls-like game. So the idea is that you have multiple characters with you that you can swap to at any time, that you might have different builds for. You might have a build of a character that is very into heavy weapons, and you might have a more dexterous character, you might have a magic-focused character, and so on, and you can just swap to them at will. But if one of those characters dies, it's game over. The usual Dark Souls thing. Or I think if it's the active character dies, but obviously it's always going to be the active character. But he dies. Anyway, Knights in Tight Spaces is a sequel to Fights in Tight Spaces, which is like a card-based martial arts brawler type thing, and then Knights in Tight Spaces. Knights this time. It's effectively the same deal, but it's a fun concept. Neon Blood is a cyberpunk noir pixel art thing. Thought it looked really cool. Fallen Aces, we've seen a couple of times. It's a first-person noir detective thing that's got a bit of Doom to it. It's got a bit of Bioshock to it. It does have a bit of the immersive sim element to it, but the trailer they showed off doesn't really do that justice. It's a very combat-focused trailer. Clock Tower Rewind is a remaster of the original Clock Tower that is extremely inaccessible to most people at this point. So the limited run games people have effectively made it playable to everybody at this point. Clock Tower would have been one of the first survival horror games. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a great game, but it does a lot of things that made their way into survival horror in general after a while, much like Alone in the Dark as well. So, it's an important game that more people should be able to play, even if modern sensibilities, it might be quite frustrating because there are a lot of instant kill and things where if you fail to make a decision very early in the game, it effectively just locks you into the bad ending kind of thing. But that's out pretty soon, I think. Want to do that? Well, fuck it. We'll look at the trailer now. Right, Post Trauma. Post Trauma. We haven't heard anything from it in a while. It was supposed to be out around now. The initial release date that was given for it, or the release window rather that was given for it, was meant to be now, and around now, or really realistically last month. But obviously it missed that. But now it's been updated that its new release date will be the autumn 2024. So still this year at some point. As you can see, it's got a bit of a Silent Hill, Resident Evil, survival horror vibe to it. And I was about to say not seeing any guns, but I just saw one there. So there is some gun combat to it. But that also looks like it was a cutscene. Oh no, he has a gun with him. Never mind. But anyway, Resident Evil, Silent Hill. But it looks pretty cool. The monster design is really interesting. And the protagonist doesn't look like he's a military man kind of thing. So it might be closer to something like Silent Hill than Resident Evil. Anyway, that's out soon. And a new thing added to it was originally PC only, but as you can see now, it is also getting some console ports. Good. Post Trauma was the next thing anyway. Hollow Body, I've shown off a couple of times. The new trailer didn't show too many things off. If you had played the demo, you might have noticed some quality of life improvements and that kind of thing, but otherwise, nothing particularly new. It's still out this year at some point. It's a really nice looking throwback to the original Silent Hill games. Demon School looks like somebody wants to make Persona again, and that's fine. The Persona games are good. It's more like a Western focused Persona, whereas the Persona games are obviously Japanese focused. Egging On, I just want to point out because it's probably something you'll see a lot of on YouTube and Twitch when it does come out. So the idea of egging on is get over it / only up / any of those kind of climbing games, but you're an egg. So if you fall, as you kind of imagine, the egg is going to crack. So yeah, it's this kind of physics climber puzzler type thing. Since you're an egg, you have an irregular shape. So if you want to get really long jumps, you're going to have to take off when the tip of the egg is on the ground. If you want to make long reaching jumps, you want to be it so that it's the round part of the egg, and so on and so forth. But if you fuck up a jump and you drop from a high enough height, the shell will crack and then you become gloop egg. The game isn't exactly over when you become gloop, when you become the yolk, if you like. But the issue with the game, or what's going to make it very difficult and very frustrating for people, is there is no checkpoint. If you fall, you're going back to the start, or you're going wherever you fall, wherever you land is where you're starting. Rather, there's no return to the beginning. They might add it as a quality life thing at some point if I'm literally in a position where I can't get out of, or I'm struggling to get out of this position or something like that. But either way, getting out of the henhouse is not the end of the game. There is more to it after that. There's some other things they're showing off here. These stamps. The stamps are there for cosmetics. You need to get to a specific point to kind of bank cosmetic. So while you have the stamp on you, you haven't unlocked the cosmetic yet. And if the shell cracks, you need to get the stamp again. So that's another source of frustration for people who want 100% and so on. But the cosmetics, as you can see, are like shapes and that kind of thing. Or egg painting. Anyway, I thought I'd point it out because obviously it's going to be stupid. Little Problems, I think. Oh yeah, Little Problems was like a detective game, but all of the problems are really stupid. Like, who ate my lunch? Kind of thing. Or where is my brother? And you find out he went to school early, or that kind of thing. So it's no like, murder mysteries and drug smuggling operations, that kind of thing. It's, very dumb, regular life things that you do detective work for. Escape from Ever After onboarding is Paper Mario, but not Paper Mario. So the idea is it's various fairy tales that you are thrown into as part of your internship to help people continue their ever after or something like that. Again, not entirely sure what the story is. The biggest gist of the story is that this job is very bad and you don't want to do it anymore. You're trying to escape from it, but to do that you need to actually go into the books and talk to people. Got the 3 pigs and the big bad wolf, and then earlier it was Humpty Dumpty and that kind of thing. So it's all also, Creative Commons, non-copyrighted things. Although he does have mouse ears on his hard hat. I don't know about that. House of Mouse might get involved. And then the last one I was looking at was Constance. Constance is a kind of Metroidvania looking thing, but a lot of it, as you can see, is paintbrush based. Again, just realized Claire Obscura also has this paintbrush motif. This one is a little bit more obvious, but you can see it's got the stuff I like. It's got dashing and upward dashes and other kinds of dashes and wall climbs and wall jumps, and yeah, I gotta play it, so I'm like contractually obliged or something to do this kind of stuff. Cool. Anyway, that's Constance. I don't think that has a release date. In the description. Anyway, so that was the Guerilla Collective. There were a bunch of other showcases as well, but I'll get to those in a second. Devolver also had a showcase. As is typical with Devolver ones, they don't actually show off many games. They do have really silly skits, and one they had this year was fucking weird. They're always weird, but this one was weird. Anyway, it was teased earlier in the week that Heart Machine and Devolver were going to be working on a game together, and this is the game they're going to be working on. It's called Possessors. It is as you can see, a side-scrolling, possibly Metroidvania situation, but either way, it's a side-scrolling platformer type thing. Where does the Possessor element come into it? I don't know, but it is gorgeous, as is Heartbreak's thing. They do like making very pretty games. This one's quite a while off. It won't be till next year at some point. And when next year, we don't know. 2025. And the other game they showed off was Tenjutsu. So Tenjutsu is a roguelite martial arts brawler type thing. It's kind of a throwback to like 80s, 90s cinema, but then also like 80s, 90s video games a little bit as well. So it's fairly lo-fi. This is from some of the creators behind Dead Cells. You probably expect a similar level of combat. This anime opening is also a Dead Cells thing, in that their animated things are also really cool, but the game doesn't exactly play like that. Anyway, this is what the game really plays like. It feels a lot like Midnight Fight Club. We played on the channel a good while ago. There's obviously going to be a bit of Sifu in there as well. What the roguelike or roguelite elements to it are about, you could see that they were, dropping new shops and whatever into different areas of the map. That's probably the more permanent upgrades, and then there are various upgrades you get during the actual run. But yeah, that's Tenjutsu, no release date, but pretty cool. And the Future Game Show, just a thing Games Radar put on, that was last night. Bogdan's Cross is a very serious furry game. That's the only way I could describe it. It's an action-adventure melee thing that's set some stage at the Crusades, but it's also furries, I think is the gist of it. Coming soon. Not sure when it'll be out. First Dwarf is a mech combat base building tower defense thing. Early access soon, next week, June 19th. Nobody Wants to Die was shown off. I think the Game Awards was last time we saw it. It was a fully CG thing. It is from former CD Projekt Red people. This trailer didn't really show off anything new. It was all concept art. It's allegedly still coming to PC and consoles this year, but I very much doubt that. I'm almost certain this is going to get delayed. Detective Dodson is a pixel art detective game set in India that has you disguising yourself and parkour and kind of things to unravel a murder mystery. Once Human got a better showing here, a feature game show. It's still not entirely clear if it is a live service thing or not. It's out soon. As I said, you can figure it out yourselves then. In Sync is a strictly cooperative game. It's a cooperative puzzle solving game. Think of like Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes, or Operation Tango, or something like that, where the two or more people will be in various puzzle scenarios, and one of you can see one thing and the other person sees something else, and you collaborate with each other, or more than one of the other things. The only thing it showed off in the trailer was 2 people, but I think they did say it's open to more than that. No release date or anything, but I think there is a demo for it right now. Dredge is getting more DLC. The Iron Rig sees you ferrying things to this oil rig that is out in the ocean. They're doing some shenanigans. Out pretty soon, August. There's a humble bundle for the various feature games that were shown off at the previous feature game show, I think. Ones that are actually out. Feature game show Snapshot was like a really quick rapid fire of a couple of games that, I'm going to be honest, I don't remember a lot of them. Drug Dealer Simulator is exactly what it sounds like. Diabolic Rage, I think, is spelt wrong. It's like diabotical, I think, is when it's, because it's meant to be robots. It's diabotical, I think is what it is. Diabotical Rogue. Again, can't tell if it's a multiplayer thing or not. Clockwork Ambrosia looks like a pretty cool Metroidvania, but the snippets for these were very fast, so again, it's hard to tell. Anton Blast looks like Pizza Tower. Star Vaders. Don't remember. Big Boy Boxing looked like Punch Out, Super Punch Out. It actually looks really interesting. And Sword of the Necromancer is actually a remake of Sword of the Necromancer. The original Sword of the Necromancer is a 2D thing. Sword of the Necromancer Resurrected, like that, is 3D. Parcel Core has a release date now. It's been shown off a couple of times. So Parcel Core is kind of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, but you're on a bike, and also a little Crazy Taxi, but you're on a bike. Similar kind of thing. Get package from point A to point B as fast as you can while doing sick tricks. Out in September. Dreambound got another showing here. It's still set to be coming soon. Netflix showed off a round of games and also reminded people that if you have a Netflix subscription, you can get some free games. So Tales of the Shire is a Middle-earth Hobbit thing. I think it's effectively Hobbit Animal Crossing. Don't Starve Together has been going for a good while now. It's the Don't Starve multiplayer thing. Labrat is, it looks like an isometric Portal, or like an isometric puzzler thing, with like the trappings of you being in a nefarious experimental thing. Rotwood and Harmonium, I honestly don't remember. And the Dragon Prince Zadia looked like a pretty generic hack and slash thing. Happy Bastards is a strategy game where you are playing a bunch of mercenaries who do all of the work for this guy in the middle, and he takes all of the credit. So there is a bit of a comedic aspect to it. Relic: The First Dawn looks like a very early Souls-like thing, but it looks pretty good. So if they can keep the kind of vibe they're going for there, it's got somewhat of it's difficult to kind of place its setting. It's not strictly medieval, and it's not strictly New Worldy, and it's not strictly modern. It's kind of got its own thing going. I want to see a little bit more of that. Hell of an Office, I think, is already out, and this was mostly just reminding people of that fact. It is like as it's said here, it's a precision platformer. The idea is you're working in the office space from hell. You work your way through the various circles of hell. Everything has its own well, gimmick. Circle of lust, circle of greed, circle of rage, and all that. But it's also a shit office at the same time. So they mingle each other. The operator actually looks kind of cool. I do want to give this a shot. So the idea with the operator is being an FBI detective who does work. So you have access to like the documents and camera feeds and that kind of thing, and you're just trying to solve the case without actually having to do any legwork. I don't think it's meant to be comedic. It's meant to be a serious thing. Still, I think it's funny. Coming later this year, Deliver Us Home. This was kind of rumored for a while when Kaioken had to downsize significantly, laid off pretty much its entire staff. And it's only really kept afloat now by the two founders. But Deliver Us Home is meant to be the third and final game in the Deliver Us series. So Deliver Us Moon, Deliver Us Mars, and then Deliver Us Home is meant to be the last one. Funding, they weren't able to get any funding for it at the time. They're going to start a Kickstarter Tuesday, 11th of June. Hopefully they'll get. I don't imagine they'll get enough money from the Kickstarter to completely fund the game, but they might get enough to placate a publisher. So the publisher won't have to put in as much money. Might be happy with that. We'll see. Hopefully they do, because I would like to see the conclusion. The story is very interesting. The Precinct is be a cop. Like, no, I don't want to. Ones to play are... I think it's games that have a demo available, and you can play it now if you want. Dystopica is it's kind of a sandbox thing where you just make cyberpunk cities. Make like cityscapes. That's it. Bit of a DOF Romantic thing to it, but I don't think it has the kind of same rules system as that DOF Romantic does. I think you can just kind of make whatever you want. Wild Bastards is like a space cowboy. Shoot 'em up thing. Servonauts. I don't remember. I think it's like a cafe thing run by robots. Gun Touchables, despite being a great name, I don't remember what the game is about. I think it's a top-down shooter. I read that as Metal Sluts. That's not what it says. That's a different game. I'm not allowed to put on Twitch. Metal Suits. I don't remember. It sounds like a mech game, but I don't remember what the game's about. I'm gonna be honest, guys. I don't remember what the rest of these are. Motor Doom, Angeline Era. Angeline Era, I think, is a Metroidvania. 10 Dead Doves. I don't remember. 10 Dead Doves is a great title. I don't remember what it's about. Duck Detective: The Secret Salami is just reminding you the game is out. It's out now. We even played it on the channel. Did a full let's play of it. It's fun. It's short. Sacrifier is a very early in development HD 2D kind of thing. So it's like a pixel art JRPG thing, but it's got like high definition background. It looks pretty cool. We'll see how the game actually plays out. As you can see, there's no date or anything. 40k Space Marine 2, again, reminding people it's out pretty soon. Goat Simulator is getting an expansion, and it is similarly tongue-in-cheek kind of multiverse of nonsense. It's like doing the Avengers thing. I think there even is like a Thanos goat. No, it's not a goat. It's a capybara. I think Thanos capybara. And the elevator pitch was like, here's just some games, and they give you like a couple of seconds to look at. 45 seconds. Wasn't a lot of time. Schkim. We are going to be seeing a little bit of that on the channel because I will be playing it as part of one of my series. But the gist of it is, if you've ever played a game as a kid where you try to jump in and out of shadows, or imagine there's somebody following you that jumps in and out of shadows, something like that, but the game. World's Worst Handyman is like a slapstick stealth thing where you're trying to do handyman jobs, but you do a shit job of it, and the owners get mad and chase you around the place. It's very dumb. It does look fun. Udero, I don't remember. And Hermit and Pig is you play a old man hermit who has really bad social anxiety, and a pig. This is truffling pig. So part of the game is looking for like mushrooms and stuff like that, but the other part of it is combat, where you get into social conversations with people and you need to handle them well. But he's a hermit and an old man, and he's very cranky and very not used to people. So it is pretty funny. Eric's Home, The Stolen Dream, is from developers behind Mirror's Edge and else that I don't quite remember. But it's like a turn of the century aesthetic. It's a kind of top-down stealth game that I'm quite interested to check out. Run from Mummies feels like it's a mobile game, but I don't think it is. But the idea is you need to run away from mummies and dodge traps and try to take down bosses and so on. It looks a bit. To be honest, Mandragora, on the other hand, looks really good. It is a 2.5D Souls-like side-scroller thing. You know how I love my side-scrollers, but Mandragora looks. I'm really looking forward to playing it, and it's out later on this year. Dustborn. So Dustborn, I think, is the Road 96 people, or is that a different game? Might be a different game. The idea behind Dustborn is you are on a road trip for reasons that have not been revealed, but I think they're not good reasons. And your character has the ability to influence people with their speech. People will just do things that you want them to do. And I think the other characters similarly have some kind of special powers. And there's a bit of I think it's a turn-based game, because they did show off gameplay of this a while ago, but I'm trying to remember it. I think it has a turn-based element to it. The trailer they showed off this time was more of the social side of things, talking to people and trying to manage the conversation by using your speech to like make people think things or make people things for you. And one of them was showing, you get stopped by the police, and your friend, who's the driver, is like very nervous, not handling it very well, and you try to tell the police officer to just go and leave with your powers, but he knew you had powers. Tried to make him do that, and everything goes to shit. The other way to do it is to like specifically tell your friend to just drive and don't stop for the police, and then it becomes a shootout, and there's lots of different things can change. So that's kind of interesting. Enter the Chronosphere is a very strange game. It's a turn-based bullet hell. This is how it's termed. So the idea is, as long as it's a bit like third-person Super Hot. Is another way to look at it. In that time will only move when you do. Enemies will fire shots at you, and you can shoot back at them, and so on. But the bullets won't go anywhere until you can kind of plot where you want to go to make sure you don't get hit by the bullets and what have you. We'll make it a little bit easier than Super Hot. The Super Hot obviously has the issue in that it's first person. You can't see everything that's happening, whereas when it's third person top down, you can kind of generally see what's happening. So we'll see how difficult it is, or how fun it is, or what have you, or how I have a feeling it might be difficult to watch, because there's going to be a lot of like really fast-paced movement, stop, really fast, stop, fast move, stop, kind of thing, and it's going to feel weird to look at, because the pace of the game is going to be all over the place if you're watching it. If you're in control of it, you know when it's going to speed up and when it's going to stop. If you're not in control of it, it's going to feel a bit weird. Toy Tactics is an RTS thing where you are playing with toys, effectively. I don't know. It doesn't look that interesting to me. Link It 2 is like a puzzle thing where you have like gadgets and like circuit boards and stuff like that, and it's like trying to make a machine work where you don't really know what it's supposed to do, but have all its various components together or something like that. It's out pretty soon though, end of June. Numata is, I feel like Numata's a while off, but it says summer 2024. I don't think it's gonna make that. Anyway, it's a suburban survival horror first-person thing. It's pretty high fidelity, so everything looks disgusting. But it does look like an interesting game. Sonokuni is a top-down Beyblade sim. It's not quite a Beyblade sim. It's just the way the character moves makes him look like a Beyblade. So it's got a bit of a Hotline Miami to it, in that you're kind of bursting into a building and then trying to take out enemies as fast as possible. But the combat mechanic of Sonokuni is you spin to like parry, spin to like knock bullets back at people, or spin into them to hit them and that kind of thing. So I feel like it'll be a little bit more forgiving than Hotline Miami, because a lot of in Hotline Miami, if the enemy gets a shot off at all, you're probably dead. Whereas this, you have a little bit of time to parry the bullet back at them. From the looks of things, the bullets don't move fast either. Anyway, it's also just it's a Beyblade sim. I just think it's funnier. Eternal Strands was shown off, I think, also at the Game Awards last year. It's kind of disappointing because it's former BioWare people and it just looks like. I know when I say it looks like Fortnite, I don't just mean aesthetically it looks like Fortnite. I mean it looks safe. Kind of what I'm going for, you know. It's like any of its hard edges are kind of polished off. It feels like it's focus tested, that kind of thing. I don't mean that it just looks like Fortnite. I mean, Eternal Strands does look like Fortnite, but that's not quite what I mean when I say that. Anyway, that hasn't dissuaded me from that notion either. There was an Unreal Showcase that showed off a lot of concept stages, concept settings, and that kind of thing, just showing you vistas of things running in Unreal Engine, but no like games or anything like that. They're all just concept things. And they look nice. None of them were games. Starship Troopers Extermination, I think, is leaving early access soon. I think is its deal. The casting of Frank Stone, we didn't see anything particularly new, and we didn't get a release date out of that. Nico DeRico might be interesting for some people, as it's essentially Crash Bandicoot. And since Activision aren't making Crash Bandicoot anymore, somebody's got to do it, right? So these guys are going to do it. It's a bit Crash Bandicoot and a bit Donkey Kong Country. It actually looks pretty good. Bodycam is already out on Steam, I think. I'm not sure if it's early access or not, but it's a multiplayer shooter thing where it just looks very real. And then Woodrunner Games has something coming out later, but it was just a tease, and I'm not even sure who Woodrunner Games are. Anyway, we're going to move on, because we're still barely through this. Okay, then there was the Wholesome Games Direct. So as the name might imply, these are all very cute, very calm, cozy type games. I'm going to be skipping through a lot of these. After Love EP we've already seen. Albatross. Mountain climbing. Sorry, not a mountain climbing. It's a farming sim thing. Boreas is what if you took Far game? Far Rising Tides, Rising something. You're on a boat. Broken Lens is a JRPG with a camera. Building relationships we've seen. Caravan Sandwich is, I think you're just doing like odd jobs for people out in like a dust bowl thing. Kato's Post Office is just a charming cat. Is also a postman. Crab God is a bit like, it's not quite an RTS exactly because it's much smaller. It's just like a small party of guys. Pikmin might be closer, and you're the crab god. Crater Cafe is what if there were Pokemon in a cafe. Curiosmos feels like a Katamari thing. Katamari or a Watam or a thing. It's just nonsense. Dawnfolk. Don't remember. Sorry. Discounty is a shop management thing. Dungeons of Hinterberg is a kind of dungeon crawler set in like the modern world. Dragon Shelter is a slice of life thing, but you have a dragon friend. Ebitapes. I think it's another slice of life thing, but it has this kind of sketch aesthetic to it, you know, like a kid sketchbook kind of thing. Ete is a watercolor sim. It's like you make, kind of interesting in that you use like 3D assets and then like forced perspective to make a watercolor paint and then sell it. Fantastic Haven, Stardew Valley. Free Ride. No, don't remember. Fruit Bus, you are you make like smoothies, I think, for different people based on the things they want. And you like travel this area in your food cart. Garden of the Sea is Stardew Valley, but you're on a beach. Goodlands. Don't remember. Great God Grove. Don't remember. Hello Again. Oh, we mentioned it before. It's Groundhog Day, but it's cozy. Herman and Pig we mentioned already. Hirokato is a side-scrolling cat platformer thing. Kind of fun. Ila, a Frosty Glide, is a person who is trying to make skate brooms a thing, or broom boards or something like that. Like, she's like a witch, but she wants to ride around on a skateboard thing instead of just the traditional broomstick. Into the Emberlands is town management thing. Kameru, a frog refuge, is making just like a frog nature reserve shelter. Frogs. Catzel is a town management thing where you make castles for cats. Kitsune Tales looks like a kind of old school, like a kind of old school top-down adventure kind of game. Culebra, Souls of Limbo. I don't remember. Sorry. Letter Bunny is almost like the cat postman thing, except you're a rabbit. Little Lands feels like a slice of life thing, but the aesthetic is a lot like the newer Link's Awakening. You know, the one where Link looks like kind of like a toy. That kind of vibe to it. Lost and Found Co. is a hidden item game. Magical Bakery is another shop management thing, but you're a baker. Map, a game about maps, is exactly what it sounds like. It's a game about maps. You can just mark things out on maps. Minami Lane. Oh no, I do remember. You have like one street that you're managing. It's like town management, but it's a single. Monterona is like a diorama maker. It's like somebody gives you a story and you need to make a diorama that represents this. Moonstone Island, I think, is already out and is making its way to Switch soon, but it's starting. Music Power Up is making soundtracks for things. Myth Match is, if you've ever played those mobile games where you merge things together a lot over and over again to make various items, it's that, but with like Greek mythology. And Nom Nom Cozy Forest Cafe is what it sounds like. Machapon is, oh yeah, it's a game where you play these kind of really shitty plastic toys, navigating the environment. Undertale has appeared in a couple of Nintendo directs. It's a pretty interesting detective type game. You play furries, but the detective element to it kind of plays out a bit like a board game. It's got like dioramas and you've got cards to represent evidence. You put cards down to do things. It has a really nice presentation. Petit Island is a bit like a short hike if you were a cat. Pine, A Story of Loss. The pine bit is like a double meaning to it because you're a lumberjack at the same time. Pining for your lost love, but you're also felling pine trees. Playdate. It was just a showcase for the Playdate. Pool with many O's is a kind of dumb puzzle game. Pretty Coo is a pigeon simulator. It's not quite. You're a person who seems to just attract pigeons. Whatever. Pup Champs is like a strategy football game. Ringo's Roundup, I don't remember. Because honestly, it looks a whole lot like that bunny guy thing. Rolling Hills is a sushi restaurant. I think it's already out as well. Rooster is an interesting concept. You play the rooster from Chinese zodiac mythology, who makes an ass of themselves during a party with all of the other mythological beasts, and the dragon sends them back in time to learn humility. And it's you just doing odd jobs and mini games with the other zodiacs to kind of learn what it means to be, not a piece of shit. Sally is a slice of life thing that takes place on a airship. Screenbrand we've seen before. Prism Peak. Sopa. Sopa has a dumb subtitle that I don't remember because it's something about a potato. Sopa and like the tale of the something stolen potato, I think is what it's about. It actually does look pretty good. But the idea is you're a kid at your granny's and she wants you to get a potato for dinner, and Possum steals it and you're chasing it down, and that's the whole story. Space Sprouts is Stardew Valley in space. Spilled has an update. I think it's in early access or something at the moment, and its demo's been updated. But Spilled is effectively like sea conservation, where you're like cleaning up oil, that kind of thing. Squeakcross is Picross, but you're a mouse. The August Before. I don't know. Alice on the Hill, similarly, I don't know. Star Named Eos. Oh, I think a few of these were in like a rapid fire thing. I just might remember them. The Star Named Eos is a little memory type thing. Tidy Cauldron is Tetris in a cauldron. You need to like put your spell ingredients in particular orientation so they all fit in the cauldron. Shape is. Times and Galaxy is a hidden object thing. Tiny Bookshop is sounds you're like a book management thing on the back of a trailer. People come to you looking for books and you give them recommendations. Tiny Lands 2 is a spot difference. Tiny Tires is Micro Machines, legally distinct. Tracks of Thought. Yeah, Tracks of Thought is like a social. To explain, it's like a social RPG, I guess. Traveler's Rest is a tavern management game. Tukoni, Forest Keepers. I don't remember it. Umami Grove is a kind of restaurant management thing. Letters from the Past Undusted is it's a bit like Assemble with Care in that you're given like old objects and just kind of renewing them and restoring. That's the word I wanted. Assemble with Care is like you're kind of fixing like broken gadgets and stuff, whereas Undusted is more of these are like old antiques trying to like restore to their former glory. Usagishima is like a rabbit collecting game that's already out, and I think it's gotten an update. Wax Heads has something to do with vinyl. I don't quite remember what the gameplay aspect of it is. And while waiting, we see already. Nearly there. We're getting there. All right, the Latin American Games Showcase. Yes, there are so many showcases, you guys. I haven't even got to industry bullshit yet. Okay, the Latin American Games Showcase. So Abyss X Zero is a third-person like anime brawler type thing. Something at the Stars is a platformer thing. Arco is not turn-based. It's like a strategy game set in sort of the Wild West and sort of the future. Aster Blade of the Monolith is a pretty generic kind of brawler type game. Astral Rot is like a survival horror thing set in space. I thought it was Alien for a second. Atomic Picnic is a hero shooter. Beacon Nada, I think, is a survival type thing. Bit and Quantum is a VR title. Bittersweet Birthday is a pixel art horror game that feels a little bit. It's by Dangan Entertainment, so it's going to be kind of squeamish for probably most people. Blood Rush is a kind of twitchy top-down shooter. Boy Scout, don't remember. Century v Anticipation is a little bit like While Waiting. You know, there are things you are waiting to happen, effectively you're anticipating, and you're just kind of filling in the time in between. Codex. I don't remember Codex. Kurilemu, I don't remember that either. Dark Crown felt a bit like Darkest Dungeon. Deathbound we've talked about already. That's the party-based Souls-like type thing. Deep Beyond. Despelote is like a football slice of life thing. Desvelado is a pretty interesting concept. You're a vampire, and you have come back from a night out, and you're kind of hoping to go to bed before the sun comes up. But all of the ghosts in your castle have turned on all the lights, and you need to turn them all off because otherwise people won't live there. So that's kind of the gist of the game. But it's like a side-scrolling platform, Shovel Knight kind of thing. But you're just putting out light. That's it. I don't think there's any actual combat in the game. Diesel Legacy is a fighter game. Digital Exorcist. I think it's a turn-based RPG kind of thing. Dream Core is like a trippy walking sim. I think it's all Unreal Engine 5, but it's like super high fidelity stuff, so everything feels way too realistic. Dream Sweeper is Minesweeper, effectively. Dungeon Drafters. It's like a card-based dungeon thing, but I don't quite remember the full mechanic for it. Eagle Knight is a mech type thing. Extinction Rifts is a first-person shooter where you need to keep up your combo, because the higher your combo is, the more damage you do. Glory Hunters. I don't remember. Goblin Cleanup. The gist of Goblin Cleanup is a team of adventurers have just gone through the dungeon and were unsuccessful, and now you need to reset the dungeon before the next set of adventurers come in. So that means like putting traps back to where they were, moving the mimic back to where it was, and so on. But you know, they're still traps and they're still dangerous, so you're gonna get killed. It's pretty funny and kind of dumb, but I like the concept. Gurai is a boss rush, side-scrolling boss rush kind of thing. Evan Crawler, you're playing this little kid that gradually gains like extra like robot arms and a robot tail and a bunch of other stuff. And there's kind of interesting mechanics at play with that. I thought it was actually kind of cool. Hidden in My Paradise is a find the hidden object game. Hollow Flowers. All I remember about Hollow Flowers is being very confused about the trailer. I'm actually not sure what kind of game. I Was Lost feels like Wordle or Scrabble. Into the Grid. I don't remember. Sorry. Iron Hive is a base management type thing. It's got a little bit of Citizen Sleeper to it. Key Locker feels a lot like Transistor. Pilot or Kid Pilot? Maybe it's Kid Pilot. Flight Sim. Mariachi Legends is a Metroidvania where you're a mariachi. Not quite. You're like a Dia de los Muertos kind of mariachi, and you have like swords and what have you. It's very like melee focused Metroidvania. It looks pretty cool. Mark of the Deep. Don't remember. Mexico 1921, A Deep Slumber is kind of like a history lesson, but you're like a journalist at the time of like this assassination that takes place in Mexico. I think it's the president. Forgive me my ignorance on the history of that. Mullet Magic is already out. It's a very good kind of roguelike kind of thing. Naughty Geese is a bit... It's like DuckTales. One Card, One Shot Mafia is sort of... It's like, kind of like a deck game where you play out one card and you have another card that you are inspecting. You're trying to find your target of a card of different people. Trying to like figure out which one matches the card and fast as you can. But the cards will like be subtly different, or maybe the cards might be an attack from them, or the card might be put all the cards back in or shuffle them, or there's a lot of different things going on with it. Payloaders Strike is like a first person thing where these kind of robot workers kind of rebel against capital. Good concept. Pipistrello and the Cursed Yo-Yo. It's like a combination of like Crash Bandicoot, but then there's also like a fair bit of like combat with the yo-yo. Prisma. Interesting, because I remembered thinking Prisma looked good, and now I'm trying to remember what it's about, and I actually don't. Project Timmy, Ash's Curse, similarly not sure of. RKGK is already out. It's like Bomber Cyberpunk. Road Out is also a bit Hotline Miami, in that you kind of drive around this sort of Mad Max looking thing, and you go into different buildings and kind of clear them out of enemies. Read Only Memories Neurodiver is a visual novel type game. Runa. Remember? Saboris is a survival horror game where you are playing a chicken in an abattoir or a slaughterhouse, just trying to avoid being slaughtered. Savior, this is already out. Sky Oceans Wings for Hire is... I think it's a visual novel, but there's also like some kind of like RTS element to it. Slime Heroes is like an old Zelda game. Also doesn't look great. Sopa is the potato game I was talking about. Soul Quest is a side-scrolling hack and slash thing, but it's kind of leaning more into like a combo system, like Devil May Cry. Stay With Me is a high fidelity horror thing that has like an alien abduction gimmick to it. Super Crane Train HD looks like Tetris. Super Farming Boy is like an arcade farming game. Tenebris Somnia is a survival horror thing that blends pixel art gameplay with live action prosthesis, that kind of thing. The Amazing Crackpots Club is Pong, I think. It's like Pong with like heroes. It's like a hero shooter, but Pong. The Cabbage Effect. I don't remember. The Coldest Winter. Literally don't remember. There's a lot of these I don't remember.
Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Hey Melwin, I'm barely halfway through. I'm actually not even halfway through. Stop popping just before bed. I might be done before you wake up. A lot of these, a few that I don't remember, because this was quite late at night when I was looking. Path into the Abyss, I think, looked interesting, but again, quite remember what the deal was. The war in Chiapas was like is like kind of like Commando. It's like a real-time stealth military thing, but you are playing the part of revolution fighters, I think. Travel on Pigeon is a little bit Untitled Goose Game, but you're a pigeon. Under Canopies feels like it's a camping game, but I actually don't know. Bound Tangled Together is like a co-op thing where you and your friend are, as you might imagine, bound by this kind of chain, so you can only get so far from each other. You need to stay close, but you can also use the chain or the vine to take out enemies. Vultures. Vultures is a turn-based survival horror, which looked really interesting. Windrunners is dogfighting shmup, a bit like Radius or Ikaruga or something like that. And Zetzillions, good name, but I don't remember what the game's about. Gonna move on. All right. Anyway, that's it for the showcases. Thank God. It's actually not it for the showcases. There were one or two more, but I am done with them. Anyway, we're gonna move on. So outside of the showcases, there were some other updates. So Slay the Princess, the Pristine Cut, is making its way to console. So Slay the Princess, if you're not familiar, starts off as a kind of almost Snow White trope to it, in that you're like the huntsman and you're sent off to kill the princess, but you get cold feet and the princess kills you. But that's not the end of it, because you don't quite die. You come back and go to kill the princess again and find there's kind of these weird alternate universe things going on, and the princess is actually some horror from Beyond the Stars sort of. Anyway, it is actually really well written, and I would suggest you give that a try. If you aren't able to do it on PC, you will be able to play it on consoles. As was rumored last week, PSVR 2 adapter for PC is in fact happening. So there will be a PSVR 2 adapter for PC games. PC coming in August 7th, be on its way. We've been working to enable access to additional games on PC, so you'll be able to access Steam's expansive library of thousands of VR games, and you'll probably be able to make it work with other shops and software and what have you. So the PlayStation VR 2 PC adapter will run you about 60 currency. What are exchange rates? Who cares? $60 and €60, but only £50. I don't think the exchange rate is like that, but alright, whatever. On top of that, you'll also need a DisplayPort cable, and of course a PC that can actually run VR games, which you may or may not have. The specs are here. I'm not going to pretend to understand them. The one you'll probably need to look out for most is the GPU. It's going to be kind of expensive. And then on top of that, there's the various apps that you'll need to download from Steam and from PlayStation as well. It's going to look like this. Quite bulky. Well, I don't actually know the exact size of it, but it does look like it's going to be pretty bulky. So some things that I did speculate last week that we are probably going to lose some of the features from the PSVR 2 from the adapter. And I was hoping they'd be able to, kind of make them work, but it looks like, at least with this version of it, they haven't been able to. So you're not going to have HDR. You're not going to get headset feedback. That's where the headset itself kind of rumbles. You're not going to get eye tracking, the adaptive triggers, or haptic feedback on the controller, other than just standard rumble. Which, I mean, it does make sense, but also a lot of those titles from Steam VR wouldn't have had access to that ability in the first place. So even the games you would be playing wouldn't have them anyway. So not it's not a loss if you like, because those features wouldn't have been implemented, but going down the line, now that people are aware there is a PlayStation adapter, it would have been nice to get them in. Anyway, things that you will be keeping. It is capable of 4K visuals. There's 110-degree field of view, it's pretty good. Finger touch detection and see-through view, as well as foveated rendering and 3D audio. The foveated rendering is a good one because it means that games that would typically be very taxing for a VR headset, with foveated rendering, it's not going to be as taxing. The issue with that, when you are in the headset, you're not going to notice anything. But if you are like me streaming it, the image will probably be a bit blurry on the edges. Center, it'll look nice and crisp. Eye tracking would normally take care of that, but because there's no eye tracking, it'll look fine for you when you're wearing the headset, because you aren't going to notice. But people who are just watching it will definitely see it. Anyway, the free Epic game this week is a game you should give a shot. It's Marvel's Midnight Suns. It's a tactics-based Marvel game. It has nothing to do with the films or anything like that. It's going to the more, I'm going to call it, occult areas of Marvel. So lots of guys who fight demons and go to hell and alternate dimensions and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'd give that a shot because it is a very good game. Moving on, monthly games this week, or this month rather, Xbox Game Pass for the beginning of June anyway. So you're getting both of the Octopath Traveler games, which are both very good JRPGs, highly recommended. Also, Octopath Traveler 2 has made its way to PlayStation as well. So the original Octopath Traveler was on PlayStation, but Octopath Traveler 2 was exclusive to the Switch, so that's now made its way to all consoles and PC. On top of that, the Callisto Protocol, which is meant to have been a spiritual successor to Dead Space, but then the Dead Space remake came out and was way better. The Callisto Protocol was not as good. Depersonalization and World War I Izanzo, I'm not familiar with. I know that Izanzo is like a mountainous, snowy area of Italy. So it'll at least be kind of different from your typical World War I shooters, that it's going to be mostly just set in snow. Then depersonalization, I don't know what that's about. Still Wakes the Deep is a brand new game that's launching this month, and it is somewhat a survival horror game set on an abandoned oil rig. Or not an abandoned oil rig, I think it's in the process of being abandoned, is the gist of Still Wakes the Deep. That will be showing up on the channel at some point when I get time for it. Okay, after talking through all of the showcases and the monthly games, those are some of the games you can play soon. What if you wanted to play something right now? Well, who would be foolish enough to release a game on the same week as all the Summer Game Fest shit? Well, Activision won. Anyway, Destiny has its last asterisk, patent pending, citation needed, expansion for Destiny 2 before they move on to Destiny 3. I don't know, maybe. I feel if you're playing Destiny regularly enough, you already know this is happening, and Summer Game Fest wouldn't have overshadowed it. You are almost certainly aware that this has come out. This trailer is entirely CG and means nothing to me. I'm so far away from the story at this point and have no intention of ever going back to it, but I figured I'd mention it because it is effectively the end of like 10 years or something, Destiny. On top of that, Autopsy Simulator, which won't have had the same kind of recognition as something like Destiny, so it's entirely possible this will fly under the radar for a lot of people. Autopsy Simulator is, as the game suggests, autopsy game. It's got a bit of horror elements to it, and if you've played something like The Mortician's Assistant or something like that, it's quite similar. It's much better polished. The voice work is a lot better. On the other hand, I don't think it has the kind of random puzzle elements to it. I think a lot of the bodies in Autopsy Simulator are scripted to be the same every time. They have like the stories attached to them, whereas the ones in Mortician's Assistant are largely they just come in with random issues. Anyway, it's horrible looking also. And you might want to turn on the nudity filter if you're going to stream it. Moving on. Fortunately, though, it is now time to talk about the worst part of video games. Jeff Keighley. No. Video game industry. Right. Well, also somewhat Jeff. A 1-minute trailer at Summer Games Fest cost as much as $250,000. This is going into the high price it costs publishers and developers to show their games at the event, which has now effectively become the new E3. E3 is never coming back really at this point, and a lot of the people who make up the board of E3, the ESA, the lobbying group that would ordinarily have put on E3, they all have their own showcases now. So it does feel like Summer Games Fest has become the de facto E3 replacement. The yearly showcase has become more important for the video game industry after the slow death of E3. The way it has been broken down for the various different trailers and what have you, so it's $250K if it's 1 minute, $350K for 1.5 minutes, $450K for 2 minutes, and $550K for 2.5 minutes. Yeah, there's a little bit of a discount. Not a whole lot, but there's a little bit. There's a small little discount there. Kotaku was able to verify that this is in fact true. Why has the screen gone black? I think Kotaku is trying to show me an ad, but the ad isn't showing up because I have ad block. That's good. Also can't scroll this screen anymore. Cool. Thanks, Kotaku. Appreciate it. Here's what we'll do. Just there we go. Nice. Anyway, moving on. These shows are really fucking expensive. So one insider told Esquire, yeah, no shit. $550K for 2.5 minutes, fuck's sake. The packages include a set number of social media posts to go along with it, so you don't just get the trailer for your 1 minute, you also get a tweet from Jeff. Oh wow, thanks. So a 1 minute trailer gets 1 post, 1.5 minute trailer gets 2 posts, and 2 minutes or more gets you 3. Wow, 3 whole tweets, Jeff. You're fucking spoiling us here. Of course, not every trailer comes with a cost. Some of them are earned editorial placements, which is basically Jeff waved the finger for them because they're friends or something. More than likely, it's reserved for the big boys, Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, you know, people who Jeff would have trouble getting their trailers at the event. Sony would have their own event, Microsoft has their own event, and so on. But some independent devs did come back later on to say that there are some free slots provided to smaller independent studios or not. So it seems that you make a good enough impression with Jeff, which is both good and bad. But anyway, there's also BizDev partner badges. It's $500 for 1 day, and you still also need to be pre-approved for it, so you can't just buy it. You need to somebody needs to sign off on you. You can rent a private meeting cabana for $50K, which comes with seats, a table, free parking, and 6 badges. Or a full hands-on pod, which comes with somebody's firstborn, I assume? No? Doesn't say how much that costs. Too much, I'd imagine. It comes with everything else, plus lots of TVs. A credenza with locked storage. Signage, and fuck's sake. But also, Summer Game Fest allows publishers and developers to spend more. Oh, it allows them to spend more, does it? Wow, how magnanimous of them. Okay. Current pricing tiers make Summer Game Fest an unattainable goal for most indie developers and publishers. The PR agents told to Esquire initially broke this story. Anyway, it's a lot of money to get eyeballs on your game, and as you've seen, there were a lot of showcases. A lot of games. In total, including all of the showcases I talked about there, it's 450. And minus some of that, because some of this is just the title of the showcase, and there might have been 1 or 2 games that were shown at multiple showcases. So, a conservatively 400 games. $250K for 1 minute. And then however much it is to be in a sizzle reel or whatever. And how many of those games did I say I don't remember? 2, you know? Like this is specifically for the Summer Game Fest show, like the first one, not the other various showcases that were there, but they're going to be watching It's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. Anyway, moving on. Jason Schreier put up a report about why Suicide Squad failed. It's a fairly lengthy read, and I've been already reading for quite a while. I'm not going to go too much into this, but it is pretty much the same reason all of these games flop, which is management don't know what they want, so they keep changing their minds. The people who are in charge should know better and should stick to their scope. They don't. They keep widening the scope at stupid times, scrapping work, and so on. Then they start losing people because they gotta start losing. Anyway, $200 million loss. His name, David Haddad of Warner Bros. Discovery, came to Rocksteady and was blunt about Justice League tanking. Became one of the gaming world's worst blunders at a $200 million loss. Because you might be unsurprised to know that development was a very tumultuous affair with constantly shifting vision, a culture of rigid perfectionism, and a genre pivot that was ill-suited for the studio. Where have we heard that before? Only all of the big flop games. Anyway, Chief Executive Officer David Zaslav was like doing a lot of mergers at the time, and things were going really shitty for the TV side of things, for the film side of things, but films were meant to be like this good thing. But unfortunately, Suicide Squad didn't do too well for them. So over the past 2 years, the company's share price had gone from $26 in 2022 to just under $8 the day that the call took place, which was earlier this February, I think. The games division was supposed to be a rare bright spot because they were coming off Hogwarts Legacy, which did very well for them. It was the best-selling title of 2023, and then Suicide Squad launched and did not do well. It was described as a disappointing release that overshadowed the rest of the quarter. I mean, by the sounds of things, it was the same as the rest of the. Okay, you're trying to just blame it on them. So initial development for Suicide Squad was 2016, quite a while ago. It was not originally going to be handled by Rocksteady. It was given to a different. Go back. August 2016 is when Suicide Squad film came out. Made. People had different reception to it. Some people liked it, vast majority of people didn't, but it made them a lot of money. $750 million on a budget of $175 million. So even with Hollywood accounting, it's still a decent chunk of change. They already had a Suicide Squad game that was struggling to come together, and they eventually pulled the plug on that gaming studio in Montreal and gave it to Rocksteady instead. Rocksteady, as you guys are aware, but Bloomberg is a much wider reading base, so they have to explain who Rocksteady are. They're the Batman Arkham guys. They're well known for single-player, very well-received games. They decided to have them make a multiplayer. Yes, that makes sense. Anyway, Arkham Knight came out in 2015, and at the time, the co-founders of Rocksteady were planning to do something else that wasn't Batman-related, and they were planning to do a multiplayer puzzles game called Stones. What that was going to be about. I imagine it was going to be like a really small game to just like palette cleanse them, and then they'd get back to doing Batman. Anyway, that didn't happen because in 2016 they were given the Suicide Squad thing. So they had to tell everybody on staff that, hey, remember when we said we're going to take a break from Batman stuff? Well, no, we're not. Suicide Squad was back, and Hill explained, this is one of the co-founders, explained that he saw it as a better opportunity than making something new from scratch. Keep that in mind for later. The company hoped to release the game in 2019 or 2020. Well, that didn't fucking happen, did it? But yes, something also rather major did happen in the world at the same time. So it is probably expected. Anyway, at the time, the broader industry was looking at Destiny and looking at League of Legends and going, they're making money. I want some of that money. Let's make our own service knockoff thing, but not learn anything from those guys. It's something shit. And they did, and all of them bombed. But Rocksteady went, we won't make that mistake. Warner Brothers executives traveled to London and made the case that, this was going to be the industry's future, and we all needed to get on board the live service thing. And Rocksteady really should have said no. They weren't really in a position to do that. Rocksteady had no prior experience in making multiplayer things, which is probably why they wanted to do a smaller puzzle-solving thing. Would have let them just, figure out the issues with it before jumping all in on this. But no, executives soon decided, without asking anybody, that nope, this is what you're going to do instead. Suicide Squad would become an online multiplayer game with live service content. Great! Let's go completely against what studio strengths are. Again, we have heard this before. This is pretty much like a carbon copy of what happened with BioWare and Anthem. Rocksteady expanded. They went from 160 to 250 people, which is a size that grew unwieldy for the managers because I don't think they ever got any more managers on top of that. But it should be important to point out, it's also way smaller of a team than would work on something like Destiny. So not only were they finding a small team difficult to manage, the team itself was already too small. So that's not good. They were hiding the fact that they were working on Suicide Squad in the first place, even from potential hires, which is not something you want to hear. You want to go work at Rocksteady, and this was something that was mentioned a good while ago. That people who wanted to work at Rocksteady wanted to work on a single-player Arkham style kind of thing, and they were told, "Lol, no, it's a multiplayer live service." And they, well, I'm out. Once they learned that they would be working on a multiplayer game, not at all what Rocksteady was actually known for, many would just leave. That's what happened. Over time, leaders' visions kept morphing. They went from an emphasis on melee combat to instead heavily focusing on guns. Remember, Batman doesn't use guns, so the Arkham games had basically no gun combat in it whatsoever. The only thing they did have was like the Batmobile had a gun element to it, but it was a turret. That's pretty basic. You don't have to deal with the other elements of guns with like reloading and cover fire and blind firing and all that kind of stuff. Something they wouldn't have had experience with, and doing all of that over multiplayer with having to deal with network lag and so on, that's a problem. Any staff members mentioned that Captain Boomerang literally has a boomerang. I don't think he ever uses a gun. Why would he now use a gun? You could say the same thing for King Shark. I don't think he uses guns either. But no, fuck you. Everybody's going to play the exact same. Cool. After 3 years and multiple delays, Rocksteady finally revealed its plans, telling everybody that, yeah, we're making Suicide Squad. Gonna be ready in 2022. That also did not fucking happen. Project's massive world and 4 playable heroes were a significant increase in complexity, because remember, they only had to deal with one hero at a time, Batman. Even going with Batman, he was able to evolve over the 3 games. They could add more things on top of him. The Batman from Arkham Knight is not the same Batman from Arkham Asylum. But then they had to do that for 4 characters and deal with multiplayer with a team that was way smaller than it needed. Obviously, you're going to see problems here. But them sticking rigidly to the 2022 release date meant engineers, under pressure to get things done, made decisions in the short term to get it working that in the long term would prove to be not good. Prioritize short-term fixes that would later turn out to be a hindrance. Staff members would have to wait weeks or even months for the creative director of the game to actually review their work. That's a significant bottleneck. Definitely contribute to those delays. On top of that, though, when he did review their work, he would scrap big chunks of the script and struggle to convey his evolving ideas, and he didn't spend much time with any of the competing games, which means, remember, this is a game type that they have no experience with. And he didn't check in with the ones who were doing well. Didn't bother. That's not a good look for a creative person. Most of the better creative people are deep in their creative medium from other people. Directors watch a lot of films. TV showrunners watch a lot of TV. Authors read a lot of books. Musicians listen to a lot of music, and so on. When you're not doing that kind of thing, that's a problem. Anyway, the constant delays hurt morale, of course, because you're not getting your stuff reviewed, and when it is reviewed, it's thrown out. Then Hill decided to pitch an elaborate system of vehicle stuff, so every character would have their own vehicle, only for the staff to come back and be like, everybody has their own means of transport now. It's already been coded at this point. Harley Quinn has the back gun, the grapple gun. Captain Boomerang has Flash's powers for some reason. I don't know what the story element is for that. Maybe he always did. I'm not familiar with the character. And so on. King Shark can just jump really high because he's really strong, that kind of thing. And they're like, why would they bother? Practically just fly around the map. Why would they bother with motorbikes or whatever? And then after months of experimentation and prototyping, the vehicle system was scrapped, because of course it was. The worst part of Arkham Knight. Anyway. Obviously, the other issue, and this is an issue and a critique that was placed at the game a lot, was that once you've done the scenarios, you're basically just grinding them over and over again, and that they're not particularly interesting when you're doing that. And they were well aware of it. Levels and bosses in a live service game needed to be designed so players could tackle them over and over again. But Rocksteady was, used to doing like single player spectacle showpiece stuff for boss fights and scenarios and that kind of thing. And you'd only do it once and you move on. Other parts of the game. It wasn't something you kept coming back to replaying over and over again. And because of that, and because they had made short-term decisions, because they assumed the release date was 2022 and not 2024, it also made changing that kind of stuff. Multiple people who worked on the project say their growing concerns were often met with promises from management that Suicide Squad would eventually coalesce at the last minute. And I've highlighted this one in a different color because this is literally what was said at BioWare about Anthem. That the game that is not feeling good and nobody who's making it feels good about it, don't worry, BioWare magic. BioWare didn't happen, and Rocksteady magic did not happen. Several employees adopted the term toxic positivity to describe the culture of the company, which discouraged criticism. Cool, that's good. That's what you want to hear from your creative team. They don't take criticism. Anyway, where have we heard this before? Anthem, Marvel's Avengers, Redfall, all of them. Live services, all of them live services from teams that didn't make them before. Anthem was from BioWare. BioWare were well known for their single-player RPG stuff. Marvel's Avengers was Crystal Dynamics, similarly known for their first-person immersive sim things. And Redfall, Arcane, also similarly their first-person sim, single-player. Every single one of them was known for single-player games, not live service multiplayer shooters. But they felt, I don't know, they're our best studio, so we'll have them do it. That's the thinking behind it. That they're good at a specific thing. They're not good at all video game things forever. You wouldn't give a racing game to NetherRealm, the guys who make Mortal Kombat. You wouldn't do that. You would know not to do that, but executive brain, they don't know that. Despite the internal concerns among frontline workers, executives from Warner Bros. Kept reviewing demonstrations of the game and sending laudatory feedback praising the graphics and saying they expected Suicide Squad to become a billion-dollar franchise. Praising the graphics, that's it. It looked good. They have no concept of how it feels to play a game, how good game feel, how important that is, how the mechanics work, any of that kind of stuff. The game could look like shit, and if it played well, it would still be a good game. There are games from the fucking Amiga era that still play well. They look like shit now, but they still play well. There's games from the PS1 era and so on. The original Super Mario Brothers still plays really well. Does not look anywhere like as good as a modern game, but it still plays well. These are the people we're dealing with. This is why the money men should never be in charge. Anyway, the studio's co-founders wouldn't be there to see it through because they cowered it out and left the studio. In the fall of 2022, Warner Bros. Announced that the two co-founders would be stepping down and they're going to move on to do something else. And we're not going to be here when this thing fucking launches. See ya, I'm out. Anyway, they told potential recruits from Rocksteady, people they were going to try to poach basically, that they would have the opportunity to make a game free of the mandates and pressures from a corporation like Warner Brothers. These are the guys you agreed to make this game for. You knew what was coming. You did it anyway. You said yes. You were definitely in a position. You had enough of a power position that you could have said no. Anyway, the game was debuted at the PlayStation Showcase that everybody, anybody who watched it remembers. People were like, the fuck is this? Fans were largely unimpressed, which is slightly underplaying it. They delayed the game again because, of course, employees were hopeful that players might enjoy the individual pieces of the game, such as it was a very pretty looking game. They felt the script was really nice and so on and so forth. And I won't discount that it does look nice. I don't know about the script. I know about one particular story element that is all over the internet, but I won't say it here, just for spoilers, that again, I also off about, to be honest. I do feel that they were maybe going somewhere with down the line. They would change something about that story element, and it would become a multiverse thing. But they're not going to get the opportunity to do that, so that story element is there now in stone, and that's not. Anyway, it would join all the other live service flops, sitting at the 60 to 50 to 60. Okay, it's not quite the worst one. The worst one's Redfall, but that's because Redfall barely worked in the first place. And it's the second worst one. Not quite as bad. It must sting, though, that the Marvel one is. Anyway, joins the life of loss. Many of the series' employees are now helping to develop a new director's cut version of Hogwarts Legacy. So yeah, that's what they got for doing that. That's what they got for doing the thing the executives wanted to do. And this is a great use of a studio that's well known for their single player stuff. Do a director's cut of a game that came out last year. Not let them do something. Not let them go back to making the thing they're good at. Remember, the video game side of the business was the one that was doing well. And they fucked it up because they wanted more money. Not just let them keep doing well and maybe work on the other sides of your business. No. Let's not do that. Let's fuck up the whole part instead. Now, there's an argument that David Zaslav is actually in the process of doing that. You know, probably looking to be sold, bought. Something else I wanted to come back to. Oh yeah, it would be a better opportunity than making something new from scratch. They did effectively end up having to make because they couldn't reuse a lot of the stuff from Batman. That's a lot of that assumed single player. And they changed it from being melee focused to gun focused. So there's a ton of stuff there. The whole Arkham combat system, pretty much useless. The thing it was known for and was copied in a lot of other games afterwards because it was so well received. Anyway, moving on. Still gonna stick with Warner Bros. For a little bit though. Multiverse's selling players extra lives was apparently a bug. Sure. Okay. A feature popped up that lets you pay real money to refill your lives during its campaign missions, so you do have a set number of lives to make your way through the campaign. And if you lose enough times, you'll eventually have to start over from the beginning, or you could pay money. And they claimed that that was a bug. Somehow they had a bug for something that had buttons, text, and microtransactions and connected to your wallet and so on. That was a bug. Bit weird. That's a weird bug. It's a weird bug that it was so well developed and worked fine. Describing it as a bug is pretty bold. It's kind of editorial stuff here from Kenneth Shepard at Kotaku, but yeah, definitely a bug. They definitely didn't plan to roll that out at some point. What I would buy as a bug is that you weren't meant to see it yet. They weren't ready yet. And it made its way in development. I would buy that is a bug. But I don't think the feature itself was a bug. That's pretty shitty. Alright, we're gonna move on away from them. But we're not done with layoffs, guys. You thought we were done with layoffs. No, we're still going with the layoffs. Alright, so Behavior Interactive, these are the people behind Dead by Daylight. Have laid off 95 staff, 70 of them just from the Montreal office itself, due to structural changes to pursue a clarified vision. What does that mean? I really wish they would just say, we want more money. We want number go up, so you're being let go. Obviously, they can't say that. Well, I don't know. It's the US. They probably could just say that and get away with it. There's a reason you don't hear about it too much in the UK. Japan, other better protected labor areas, because they wouldn't get away with it, but they absolutely get away with it in the US. Anyway, the studio shared its growth trajectory from 575 to 1,300 employees over the past 5 years. I wonder if that's a reason for your structural changes. Obviously, they bought in to the zero interest rates that were going on during COVID. Like everyone else, they overextended themselves and didn't think they'd ever have to pay that money back. What? We gotta pay loans? Incredible. Anyway, there's some horrible corporate shit here from the CEO. I would like to express my deep personal appreciation for any employee affected. Not just the employees affected. For any employee. He doesn't know. He doesn't even fucking know who's affected. But it's not even that many people. You could at least learn those names. While changes to our structure and strategic vision have led to challenging decisions, yeah, I'll bet, real challenging for you to just fucking make a bit more firing people. We are confident that these decisions, who's we, will position us for continued success. Eat my entire ass. As we begin the next phase of Behavior's growth, they're still going for growth. Still going for it. You just have to lay people off, but they're still going for growth. Our commitment to excellence in our products and workplace culture remains steadfast. It does it. Remains steadfast by firing people. The company acquired multimedia production firm Fly Studios last March. That's not that long ago. They had enough money to do that, but they don't have enough money to avoid laying these people off. Yeah, I don't think so. Right, anyway. Just Cause creators Avalanche also laying off people also from Montreal for some reason. So I don't know. Fuck you in particular, I guess. So these are the guys behind Just Cause, but they're also behind the Mad Max game, the most recent one, and Rage 2 specifically. They're laying off 9% of their global workforce. There's that very close to 8 to 10% thing again. Kind of weird they're all picking that number. It's really strange. Even Behavior from before that, they had already laid people off, and if you combine this, 3% of their workforce in earlier this year. I bet if you add the people on, it ends up being 8%, 10%. Anyway, 9% of their global fast force to ensure a stable and sustainable future for the company. Again, what does that mean? Who knows? Avalanche's Montreal studio had been open for all of 8 months. So 8 months ago, they were fine with opening a new studio. What happened? What changed? The 0% interest rate thing didn't change in 8 months. That was already in place before they opened that studio. So, why? What was the change? Layoffs follow hard on the heels of a unionization agreement for Avalanche staff. I wonder if it's retaliation. Yeah, well, it is in Sweden, so it's... I don't think they're above retaliation, but still, it's pretty far. Montreal, pretty far away from Sweden. Not like they had anything to do with each other, but I wouldn't ask them. Anyway, last thing we'll look at. So, during Summer Game Fest, New Blood Interactive, their new publisher, put up a billboard in wherever SGF is being held, LA somewhere. And it reads Arcane Austin 2006 2024, Roll 7 2008 2004, Tango Gameworks 2010 2024, Volition 1993 to 2023, London Studio 2002. That one still hurts. London Studio. Anyway, everyone laid off, downsized, and made redundant. Thank you for great games from your friends at Blood. And then it rolls over to say, we love you, we miss you, and we hate you. That's obviously a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but at the same time, it's clearly that is the reason why it happened. The companies aren't there, or rather the people in charge of the company aren't interested in making good games. They're interested in making. That's a problem. If you want to just make money, go to the financial and stay there. Go live on Wall Street. That's all they care about. If you're going to take over a company that makes a thing, that's the thing you should be interested in. Or if you absolutely have to have a money guy, just keep him in the CFO position. That's it. He never makes it to CEO, ever. Anyway, that was a nice gesture, and there's a little bit of a gimmick to it as well, because obviously it gets them a bit of PR. 93 Volition. Obviously London Studio. Been around for a very long time. They have been pretty solid for Sony. They never made anything particularly shit. Here, maybe? I'm not even sure that was them. But everything was decent enough, and they helped with their weird peripheral decisions. They made the software for it. When Sony would eventually just forget about them. Tango Gameworks made some pretty decent selling games for Bethesda. Arcane. They make Prey, Dishonored. Some very good games that are criminally overlooked by people. Anyway, we're going to move on. We have one last shitty thing to talk about. Abubakar Salim addresses fever pitch of racism received after the launch of Tales of Cthulhu Zhao. This is in the community things section, because this has really nothing to do with the industry. This has everything to do with the video game community just being kind of shitty. By kinda, I mean very. You addressed the fever pitch of constant targeted harassment the studio has received since the release of the game. If you're not familiar, Tales of Kanzera Zhao is a Metroidvania that has a lot of like Bantu Tale, Afrofuturist, um, African heritage kind of stuff to it. So, of course, racism has to come out. We are being faced with constant targeted harassment from people who see diversity as a threat, from people who look across the vast landscape of modern media and decide that anything that doesn't speak to them or centers around them is unnecessary and authentic. There's always a reason diverse stories can't exist. It's either we're doing it the wrong way or it's just there to tick boxes, and it's just beginning to feel like there is no right way. These exclusionary rules just continue to stack up and the goalposts continue to shift until me, my studio, people who look like us just sit down, be quiet, and just accept the fact that we're outsiders, but I don't want to do that. There are people who aren't like you in a game. I want you to know that that game is still for you. If the characters are a different race, a different gender, a different ideology, different perspective, that doesn't mean the game isn't for you. It can still be for you. It's an opportunity to live in rich new worlds, explore different worlds. Now you just need to be open to it. Like, there's no reason you can't play Tomb Raider just because you're not a woman. No, you can still do that. There's no reason you can't play Devil May Cry, even if you don't eat pizza. You could still be Dante. Like, it's fine. There's no reason for any of these things. Anyway, he did kind of make a point that he didn't want to have to go out of this kind of thing because the game wasn't meant to be like, he's using the Afrofuturist Bantu Tales thing. That's his thing. Inspired by it, and the story itself is really about the death of his father and grief and kind of thing. If you do play through it, that is kind of the central theme of the game. I think that part's handled well. The game itself is a bit floaty. I have some issues with it, but the story overall, the whole gist of it, is pretty good. And he didn't necessarily want to have to bring in like the whole race thing, but he's kind of made it a point now because it's affecting people who he's employing to make these games and so on. So sadly, since the release of the video, Salim and the development team have received further abuse, of course, accusing them of faking their harassment. Yes, definitely, I faked the since the first moments of creating the game, the focus was on my father's legacy and what I wanted to leave behind to represent that. Since announcing, we steered away from race as a subject matter as much as possible because the game isn't about that, it's about the human journey of grief. However, this didn't stop the harassment that came our way, and I knew that as soon as I chose to address the subject of race, the legacy of this game would be diluted, but something had to be said. Suffering in silence wasn't an option and needed to be addressed, because by not speaking to it, countless others out there who would also suffer in silence and not see the power they have to tell stories through their perspectives, whether they choose to make the race of the character a key focus or not. So, yeah, I mean, nothing's gonna... it's like defeatist to say nothing's really going to change here, but the more people who do speak out about it, the less acceptable. I think a lot of how sexual harassment, whatever happens in like multiplayer games, in social media in general, like a lot of that is just that people go, no one's going to change anything. The people who are in charge of changing these things aren't going to do anything about it because they don't want to. And it doesn't affect them. So they don't give a shit. And yeah, I do still feel that. But I think letting that just wash over you and be like, I can't make a difference, so why am I going to bother? Kind of like, self-fulfilling prophecy. That's just going to happen. So you are in a position to push back on it. I think it's in the industry, the community's best interests that you do that. Right, what will we leave? Normally I leave new releases, but I don't particularly care about it. And Autopsy Simulator might get me banned if I leave too much of it up. Alright, fuck it. Autopsy Simulator. Don't look too closely at it, alright? Don't do that. Anyway, so that is your weekly news recap for the 3rd to the 9th of June 2024. Big focus obviously on the Summer Game Fest stuff. So the various showcases, I've watched a lot of them in kind of rapid succession and a lot of jumping around, and I've probably missed a few games and so on. As I said, it's conservatively about 400 games in the last couple of days. So we're going to miss a few of them. As I said, the Claire Obscure Expedition 33 was probably the most interesting one from the Xbox showcase. But then trying to specifically pin down which other games were on which showcase, I could not tell you. because I watched too many of them back to back. The only reason I know it's from the Xbox One is because I literally just well, I say just watched it. That was like 3 hours ago at this point. Anyway, so yeah, we're not going to talk too much about that. Updates wise, the PSVR 2 adapter is good. I'm glad that's happening. It does mean I will have to accelerate my getting a gaming PC point because this PC can't handle VR games, definitely not. And the Steam Deck doesn't have a display, so that's definitely not going to. Anyway, new releases. I don't care really about Destiny, but I figured I'd put it out just because it's kind of the end of the whole saga. It's kind of important enough, I suppose. My real issue with Destiny is that if you wanted to go back now and experience the whole thing, you can't. It's the way they handle their online content as an MMO. Like every other MMO, you can start from the beginning and work your way up. Whereas with Destiny, you're kind of dropped in the middle of the story. You can't really go back to Destiny 1, play on from that, or even the beginning of Destiny 2. They only ever go back a couple of expansions. And whatever way they're handling their assets, or whatever way, whatever memory issue or limitations, whatever the hell it is, they really need to fix that because it's a huge problem. The other big live service MMOs, whatever, huge MMOs, World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 14, don't have this problem. You might also argue that their bandwidth isn't really the same. Like a real-time shooter, any kind of lag is a problem. Whereas World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 14, the gameplay, the combat isn't real-time. A lot of it is tick-based and not tick-based, like time-based. The animations don't necessarily connect up with the damage, and it's not supposed to. It's not really what they're going for. So like a small bit of time lag or whatever, you won't really notice in those kind of games. So I do get that there is some kind of limitation and something that is keeping them from being able to have all the content available at once. But it's definitely not going to be acceptable for Destiny 3, I guess is my point. Industry bullshit. We're a bit light on it this week, mostly because the industry was busy. So I imagine they'll get back to being shitheads next week. The news coming out about Suicide Squad and Rocksteady is not surprising. I largely expected that that's what happened. Anytime you see multiple delays, anytime you see the game changing studios in the middle of development, anytime you see the creative directors leaving before the game has come out, and so on, anytime you see that kind of stuff, like, this is going to be bad, isn't it? And I don't think I would really have to check, because nothing really springs to mind where the creative director left before the game came out and the game. But the game being okay, yeah, that has happened. But with the game being like genuine 80 or 90 Metacritic kind of thing, I don't think that's ever happened. I could be wrong. I probably am. I don't have like an encyclopedic eidetic memory of the entire video game industry. But I certainly can't think of one that was like that. Anyway, community things, yeah, I mean, as I said, it's defeatist really to just say that yes, there's always going to be racist video community, and while it's kind of true because it's a community of human beings and there's racism outside of the video game community, we're just a microcosm of society in general, but that doesn't mean it should be accepted. There should be pushback against it. There should be marginalization of people who engage in it, criticization of them. We saw a little bit of it last week with Riot Games implementing stronger moderation, actual hardware bans and so on. Like, that kind of thing is what needs to come in. Obviously, Twitter with shithead in charge, that's not really going to change, as he's just not interested in that kind of thing, and if anything, he enjoys it. But yeah, social media in general is shit. But it's still defeatist. It should still be called out. people shouldn't have to work with the threat of that kind of thing hanging over them. Not really clear what the solution is, other than, I don't know, get his face out of. Anyway, that's it from me. For the news, at least, what's happening on the channel? We have. Not Jeff. Hopefully not Jeff. Anyway, interesting. It shouldn't be. Anyway, here's our big wall of games 2024. Hasn't really changed even after Summer Game Fest, because we noticed tons of those games aren't coming out this year, not until next year. I will redo this for the handful of games that are actually going to make it out, but I wouldn't say it's going to happen anytime soon. Anyway, off stream, I had been playing Atlas Fallen. I went back to it. I still stand by my position on it. The first time we played it, it felt like a really loose Forspoken. And I felt Forspoken did the game better. This kind of sandbox, open world. Sandbox was not a pun, but about it now, it kind of is. I felt Forspoken did it better, and Forspoken wasn't. The things it tried to do, the parts of Forspoken that are a video game are good. Like, the combat is good, the traversal is good, but everything else is just. This does have an interesting combat. It has a momentum system where the longer you're in combat and the more successful attacks you get off, you open up a bigger repertoire of. But opening up that repertoire also decreases your defense. So you're having this kind of push and pull of whether you want to go in on offense or maybe reduce your momentum so that you stop taking as much damage, or push all the way up so you get access to like your most damaging things, but you're going to have to be very careful to not get hit and that sort of thing. That's interesting. I don't think they leverage it well because the game is not responsive enough. You're getting hit by things that you shouldn't be getting hit by. In other games, you wouldn't get hit by these. Yes, putting it. Sometimes I'm dodging out of the way, and it sure looks like the enemy's / attack animation has finished, but I still get hit. That kind of thing. It's really annoying. Traversal wise, there's this thing where you can kind of slide along the sand. You're using the sand to propel yourself forward. It's just a sprinting animation. I was really hoping there'd be an actual mechanic behind that. It would feel a lot more like you're actually like snowboarding. That was kind of the thing I wanted to go with. I do kind of feel like it should have been like this active thing, like you're driving your character. You could do like drifts and jumps and that sort of thing. I do feel it would have played a little bit better, because as it is, it just feels like a sprinting animation. It's not as much fun. The Pathless did it very well, and I think they could have potentially implemented something like that. Would have been interesting. I think would have made the sand running, whatever. I forget what it's actually called. Like, there are some good things to it, but there are so many things that detract from it, and the good things could have been done better. Now, having said that, a recent trailer came out for this pretty significant update for the game that has addressed basically all the things that I just said. I don't think they're really going to change the sand running animation thing, but I do think they're making some significant changes to the combat, and they're changing the voice actors for a lot of them. Voice acting is pretty bad in the game. They are getting they're getting Ben Starr to do the main character, and from the sounds of things elsewhere in the trailer, they've gotten somebody else to do some of the supporting characters as well. I don't think they were professional voice actors who did the original stuff, and if they are, they need more work, because this doesn't sound good. Anyway, they don't fit their character. Anyway, that's that. I now need a new game, so I'll have to figure out something. V Rising is out soon. I might just wait and play V Rising instead. Anyway, after that, what do I want to mention? Next week, Steam Next Fest. So we're going to have, I'm going to pick a day, maybe 2 days, and we're just going to play a chunk of some of these demos that look interesting. If you're not familiar, Steam Next Fest is a time where Steam makes available a bunch of demos for games that are either coming soon or really far away. Getting like really early attempts at some of these indie games. It's usually a good time. And the best time I have with it is seeing whether or not the Steam Deck can run it. that's the real fun time, because these games have not been optimized yet or anything. So yeah, we'll see how it works out. There's some games that were shown off during those showcases that either have demos available now or will have them in time for Next Fest. So I will pick a day, potentially 2 days, and we will play through some of these, like I've done the last couple of Next Fests. So the schedule as it stands now, Tuesday and Wednesday, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes will continue. Potentially we'll finish it this week. Steam Next Fest I have just penciled in for Thursday. I think we'll do it then. And potentially we might do it again on Saturday or Sunday, something like that. Final Fantasy V, it's been a while since I've played that. So to be honest, I will prioritize that over Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. If it becomes a case that I can't do 2 days of Final Fantasy V, I'll probably take one of the Lorelei days and do it then. And what's not here on the schedule is that there's probably going to be a D&D session. And that means there won't be a stream one of these days. It'll be Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. So I haven't ironed that down yet, and it's also not clear if it's going to happen. It needs to be a certain number of people, and I haven't checked, so it may or may not happen. But if it does, it'll be Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. Anyway, that is it from me. Thanks, Melman, for dropping by just a little bit before you went to bed. I assume she has now gone to bed. I should probably do that too. That's it from me for today. I'll be back on Tuesday with Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, but for now, have a good rest of your evening, or night, or afternoon, or whatever it is you're doing, and I will see you then. Bye.